He's every team's worst nightmare.
Michael Schumacher trying to take pole position here. Has he done enough? Yes, he has.
What a stonking lap from Michael Schumacher.
It's enough to make every other team wake up in a cold sweat.
Absolutely superb. Ferrari completely dominant.
The 2002 Ferrari is unbeaten and on pole again. And what's more, Michael Schumacher has won the championship every time he's been on pole in Spain. Not that Michael thinks that facts and figures matter.
At the end of the day, it counts what you do, not what the statistic may say.
Try telling that to the rest, Michael. Behind the front row, the Ferraris are the two Williams, with brother Ralph just pipping teammate Juan Pablo Montoya. At the other end, a point, any point, will be welcome for BAR and Jordan. Minardi, though, will not race. Both Alex Young and Mark Webber suffered heart-stopping moments yesterday, and Webber another this morning. But if Michael Schumacher wins again, it'll be the rest of the pit lane left hoping that this is just one bad dream. Hello again. Yes, a few sleepless nights, I imagine, for some team owners as they try to plot Ferrari's downfall. Perry McCarthy isn't asleep. He always looks like that. And he's joined by journalist Jeremy Hart. Jeremy, no laughing matter, the main talking point, and that's Minardi's withdrawal. 2 wings yesterday, another wing today. Are you surprised?
Not at all. It was the only decision to take. I mean, I can't believe it took as long as it did, especially once the rear wing had gone, because twice they lost the front wing, once on each car, and then Mark Webber lost the rear wing as well today. And very sensible decision by Paul Stoddart. Very hard decision to pull both cars out of the race. Well, this is this morning's incident. Webber getting out very quickly, Perry. Why is he so keen to get out of that car?
Natural instinct, just in case anybody is following you. You don't want to be around for when they hit you. And the second thing is that, you know, you want to be away from something that's let you down, basically. You can see by Mark waving his arm that he's not happy. He's had another car failure. He's out there trying as hard as he can, and he knows that this is probably going to spell the end. It's frustration.
Don't forget, he's at the end of a mile-long straight where the cars are nudging 200 miles an hour. It's not a safe place to sit around. I'd get out pretty quickly too.
So Minardi out, but would there have been pressure from other teams to say, look, we're not sure about your car and we're worried about the safety of our drivers?
Yeah, we heard this morning from Eddie Irvine and from David Coulthard, both saying that in their minds that Minardi should pull out, and I'm sure a lot of the other team principals would have voiced their opinions as well, although, to be honest, there's nothing that they could do in terms of actually forcing Minardi's hand. The only people that could have done that are the FIA. OK, let's hear what the Minardi team have to say.
I think the toughest decision a team owner or a team ever has to make is to withdraw its cars on safety grounds. That's exactly what we're doing today, sadly. Although we are confident that the front wing failure on Mark's car yesterday was viewing the tapes, clearly an accident as opposed to a failure. The incident today on Mark's car has left the team feeling that we have no other option other than to withdraw from this afternoon's race. The failure occurred along a stress line on the rear wing, and this is a stress line that this rear wing has ran in every race, not this particular one, but this design of rear wing has ran both in testing and every race this year without any problems whatsoever. The actual part concerned on Mark's car today was a brand new manufactured part fitted to the car this morning, and it's clear to see the failure is along this stress line. Now, although we have other brand new rear wings here, and although we have another earlier design of rear wing that does not incorporate those rivets, we feel, although we're confident we could have run this afternoon very safely, that given the circumstances it would have been irresponsible to do so until we've had time to take these parts back to the factory and to totally analyse every aspect of this failure and prepare fully for the Austrian race in 2 weeks' time. So sadly, we are withdrawing.
Mark Webber, very trying 2 days. Yesterday the front wing, today the rear wing. Talk us through both of those incidents.
Well, the front wing was probably worse for me, I mean, because it went under the front of the chassis, obviously. The guys did an amazing job to get the front wing prepared for today's race. I was absolutely confident that that was going to be sweet, you know. But today's rear wing was a shock for the team, because that's done the first lot of Grand Prix. So totally from left field for us this morning. And on that grounds, you know, we can't race. We don't have enough time to analyse, to adjust things, and, you know, like Paul said, with other cars on the circuit, in the interest of our safety as well, and all the other guys, we can't do the Grand Prix. So it's a no-brain decision.
But when the front wing went yesterday and it went under your front wheels and the front of the car came up, did you start having visions of the two somersaults you did at Le Mans with Mercedes several years ago?
The car didn't come up that high. I didn't feel it, you know. But on the TV, it looked a lot higher than what I felt in the car. So yeah. But I know these cars don't have flat bottoms, so it's a lot safer in terms of that.
But how about the rear wing? And when it came off, did you feel it go immediately? You talked earlier about a gust of air down your back. It seemed quite strange. Can you see that in your mirrors, or you just thought something's happened and then you hit the brakes? Yeah,
I mean, it looked like I was for about 3.5 seconds still flat, or about 3 seconds. As I said, I did adjust some engine positions right at that time, which was amazing. And yeah, so in the braking area, yeah. See you later.
Yeah, but you feel now that you're safe, you're okay, confident for the next race, things will be fine, and you can put it behind you.
Yeah, I can put it behind me. I mean, it's there's going to be so much emphasis on correcting this issue. So these are the best boys in the business in making things to the limit and also helping things and making things potentially bulletproof. So that'll be good. Okay,
shame to miss you this afternoon. Thanks for talking to us.
Cheers.
Thanks indeed. Well, we're joined now by Peter Windsor at the Minardi pit, where I gather, Peter, or I suppose it's all a bit quiet.
Absolutely right, Matt. Yes, it's very quiet here. The boys just packing up, ready to go home. Obviously, an air of resignation here from all the guys on the floor here in the garage. They work very hard, and of course they can't really take any responsibility for any of this. But to me, as I said before the warm-up this morning, it was very clear that Minardi should not be running after the failures they had yesterday, and sadly that was proved to be the case. Very lucky that Mark wasn't hurt, that's all I can say. But one has to reflect on Paul Stoddart. He's a guy of enormous vision and drive, but the Austrian Grand Prix last year, I was chatting to him saying that there was a very good senior engineer on the loose available who perhaps he should be talking to, and wanted to offer him his phone number. And he said, no, we're a team, we don't want a chief engineer, we don't want a chief designer, we got a new way of doing things. So, you know, one has to reflect now on whether that was a mistake, I think.
Peter, we heard and we talked about this earlier when there were just the two front wing failures, that the team had reported they weren't related. We've now got a rear wing failure with the Minardi. I think it's, you know, one can draw the conclusion that something is relating all three of those failures. Has Paul mentioned anything to do with outsourcing manufacturer requirements or anything?
No, he hasn't mentioned them, but as I said to you earlier this morning, in my view, if they're unrelated, that's just as serious, because there shouldn't be that number of failures on a car in such a short space of time, and it points to something a lot more serious than just a supply problem, for example. With things like carbon, as you very correctly said this morning, there are a lot of processes involved in getting it exactly right, and you only need to have one slight error in the way the bonding's done or the layup's done to have a major problem. But as I say, it could go deeper than that. It could go right down to the design stage.
Peter, what's the feeling elsewhere in the pit? I mean, we heard from Eddie Irvine, we heard from David Coulthard a little bit earlier on that they thought that this would have been the right decision. It hadn't been made when we talked to them. What's the feeling elsewhere in the pit lane? Relief?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody, I think, really deep down didn't think they should even have been running this morning, and everyone's very relieved they're not running in the race.
Peter, for the time being, thanks very much. Well, it seems only yesterday that the teams gathered in Australia for the first race of the season, but amazingly, we're pretty much at the third of the season gone stage. So what better time to reflect on what's happened so far? As I always say, to know where we're going, we must first know where we have been. So nearly a third of the way through the season and we find ourselves in Barcelona. Who better to ask for a guided tour around this circuit than Spanish hero Pedro de la Rosa?
Hello, I'm Pedro de la Rosa and I will take you around the Circuit de Catalunya on my fastest lap. This is the entry to the main straight where it's just go in 5th gear, then shift to 6th and 7th, It's important that the tires are at up to temperature, just brand new, low fuel, and brake to the first corner into second gear, second, third, keeping a nice wide line into the turn 3, which is one of the fastest. It's taken in fourth gear. Car has quite a lot of understeer here. Shift to 6, hard braking into Repsol. You brake completely into the corner, trying to keep the momentum. Nice wide line and downshifting for the slowest corner of the track. It's very, very slow. It's very important to brake very late. Downshift to second, third, fourth and fifth. This corner is very difficult. Just have to run a little bit through the curves to get a very straight line out and a quick line out also. Kamsa is fourth gear corner, trying to get the most out of it on the back straight because it's very important to put the power early. And you get into the 2 last slow hairpins, which is just very important not to make any mistakes and brake too late like it happened in that lap to me. Then heading for the last 2 corners, which are taken in 5th gear and nearly flat, using all the curb on exit because you have to get maximum speed out of this corner because the main straight is very, very complicated otherwise. That was my fastest lap of qualifying. It was quite good, but next time will be better. See you next year.
So that's the theory. Now let's see who did it quickest in practice, or should I say qualifying.
Good run from David Coulthard, the kind of...
Of course, we now know that neither Minardi will start because of their problems with wings flying off at various intervals. But elsewhere, Michael and his mate up the front, and everybody will be betting on them to stay there throughout the race.
Yeah, there's a red wall at the front. If you look at the grid, everybody else has got to climb over it or barge their way through it, and that's going to be very hard. Except the Renaults have got this fabulous launch control, and that's going to be the main focus of attention, I think, at the start, is how much the Renaults can make up in the first half kilometre or so between the grid and that first corner. It's going to be all action. And crucially, they have enough space at this track to make use of that launch control.
If they get the momentum from the launch control, if they've plugged in the numbers correctly, we've seen that thing can just be like a catapult off the start, then they've got the space to make use of it. But the low-level power of the BMW also will be attacking the Ferraris, given that distance before the first corner. So I think that there's going to be, a 6-car fight into that first corner. If Jenson Button gets it right, he can go for a podium position.
You're talking about corners and fights, and Montoya's one of those 6. So do you anticipate the resurrection of his much-hyped battle?
I hope so. Otherwise, I think he has always on paper the best chance of fighting with the Ferraris, but not here. I mean, this is not a Michelin track, and the temperature, we've been told it was going to be 25 degrees today. Forget it. If it hits 20, we'll be very lucky, and that's not Michelin territory.
We're very lucky. It's just hit 20.
Oh, fantastic. That's great.
Thank you, Bert Ford. Second patch of, or second batch of contenders, I'm calling them. Patch is probably not the right word. I'll find out what exactly sort of word it is later on. But anyway, pick one from there, a bit like the Grand National, to come through and do the business.
Well, Irvine's just picked up 2 places with Minardi pulling out. It's going to be hard, though. I mean, he's got Sato in front of him. I would look, though, to Villeneuve coming. I mean, Panis had a couple of glimmers of hope in warm-up and everything else. Villeneuve is one of only 2 drivers to have won here of the current bunch, Michael and him.
Well, now a reminder that John Watson and Ben Edwards are on Super Channel and that all the interactive options are now available to you. But it's only here that you get Peter Windsor, and he's at the McLaren garage, where, Peter, I would suggest anything other than both cars well into the top 6 today will just about see their season come to an end.
Well, yeah, I don't want to be unkind at all, but if we wanted confirmation that McLaren and Mercedes are in some sort of slump, let's call it a mini slump for the moment, then I'm afraid it's come this weekend, because if they were going to beat Williams on the same tyres, they were certainly going to do it at Barcelona, a circuit they've really come to own over the last 4 years. But they are behind Williams BMW again. The good news is, actually, the gap between them and Williams isn't as large as it's been at some circuits so far. So if you're speaking optimistically, as Norbert Haug was to us yesterday, things are improving. But as David Coulthard said this morning, it could be a lonely race for the 2 McLaren Mercedes drivers.
Peter, everybody wants to point a finger when things aren't going wrong. There are 3 primary elements in the McLaren deal. There's Bridgestone, there's McLaren themselves, and of course there's Mercedes. Who's pointing at whom in this?
Well,
Sorry,
a lot
Michelin.
of people up and down
Sorry,
the
I
pit
beg
lane,
your
and in the
pardon.
media centre, it has to be said, Michelin, are pointing the finger at Ilmor. I tend not to do that, only because if you think back to last year, Mika Häkkinen won the US Grand Prix pretty well with a pretty good engine. That was the second last race of last year. So it's difficult to believe that over the winter, Ilmor have lost 60 to 70 horsepower to Ferrari and BMW. I just find that impossible to believe. So if you assume that there's a little bit of power deficit, and also perhaps having gone the twin keel route, the car's very pointy, more difficult to balance, and then you add, of course, the problems at the moment that Michelin seem to be having alongside Bridgestone, then it all adds up. But it's a question of momentum. They've got two brilliant drivers. They've got a very good engineering team. They don't seem to be putting their heads down. They seem to be getting on with it. And let's see. This is a very unusual set of circumstances here. It's a test circuit for virtually all the teams. And as we said earlier, Michelin have really come with a compound here that's too hard. They didn't have enough variation between their two tyre types prior to the decision-making on Saturday at midday. And as you can see, the temperature is 20 degrees. Much more significantly, the track temperature is 20 degrees as well. There's no difference between the track temperature and the ambient. Usually it's about 10 degrees hotter on the track. And I think that's really hurting Michelin here. It's partly because it's quite a strong headwind.
Peter, it's Jeremy here. The point that McLaren are really struggling at the moment, and we thank heavens Renault have come through and shown some form that they didn't have last year when they were the Benetton team, of course. But, at what point do McLaren come good, or do we have to write them off for the rest of the season?
Well, it depends what you're writing them off from. I certainly wouldn't write them off in terms of scoring some victories. I think they will win races this year. I'll be very surprised if they don't. They've got too many good people there, too many facilities, too much resource. Of course, Renault are on a completely different curve at the moment. They're coming from a much lower baseline. And interestingly enough, they've got a very different engine to every other team in the pit lane. We know it's a wide-angle engine. There's a much lower center of gravity, so they've got a completely different approach to the problem. And it's conceivable they're actually getting more out of their tyres this weekend because of that difference in center of gravity than the Williams and McLaren cars. But that's only a presumption on my part. There's no evidence to back that up other than the lap times.
Peter, we'll leave it there for the time being because I've got a bit of a deal, actually. What I'm going to do is stop you from buying a used motor because we've actually got one we're giving away. So the build-up to the Spanish Grand Prix continues. The pit lane will shortly be open, so let me remind you of our interactive options. At Imola, Michael Schumacher became the most capped Ferrari driver ever. Much more of this domination, and he'll be nominated for a sainthood. So let's see if anyone can force his halo to slip a bit as we settle down to enjoy the 2002 Spanish Grand Prix. Your choices include Pits Channel, Onboard Channel, Data Channel, Super Channel with Ben and Watty, and here on Master Channel, Perry, Jeremy, Peter and myself, and a whole cast of Formula One stars. To quote a famous Prime Minister, "You've never had it so good." And thus far this season, Arrows have never had it so good. That's quite a nice link, isn't it?
Okay, straight to the grid then, Heinz.
They're doing pretty well. The chassis looks nice, but as we've mentioned once or twice before, it'd be pretty good if they could actually, get off the line and continue racing, because they've had some dramas which have cost them a lot of credibility so far this year. But their chassis does look good. As Peter mentioned earlier, even though they're using the same engine as Jaguar, it's actually a specification down on the one Jaguar are using. So to keep out-qualifying Jaguar is good for Arrows, and it's embarrassing for Jag. But, they might be able to come through. They've got a couple of very good drivers.
Talking of Jaguar, actually, Bruce Jones is now talking to Eddie Irvine.
Eddie Irvine, I've just seen you looking down towards the pit exit at looks like possible change in the weather. What's your intelligence on that front?
Lack of intelligence, probably a better thing. I have no idea. It's the first I've seen of it. We're not meant to be getting rain, but that looks a bit strange.
Now, obviously, you're starting further back on the grid. You qualified 15th, put to the back for fuel irregularities. How are you going to approach the race? A bit more ground to make up than normal, but you've had a lot of ground to make up this season anyhow. Yeah,
the problem is we don't have a car to make up the ground. We qualified 15th because that's as quick as we are. To be honest, we probably weren't that quick, really. The car just came together. In qualifying yesterday, the temperature was perfect for the Michelins, and we got a good balance, but in the race, I think it's going to be a real struggle. We have problems with this car until we change the car. We're not going to get faster, and we don't have the changes yet. We just got to wait, be patient, and hopefully when they come, it's a big step forward.
Well, best of luck anyhow, Eddie. Thanks.
and that's what he used to be in, namely a Ferrari, and in Barrichello's place.
I mean, Eddie's never really had any luck at all at Jaguar. He knew that, though, when he went there. He knew that it would be working up from ground zero, and Jaguar not really that much further down the road. Every time they show a glimmer of hope, the season ends, or somebody else goes faster. So they're getting round it. They've got this new wind tunnel. It's getting a lot of use. But realistically, they're not going to show any improvement in form, I don't think, until the middle of the season. But by then, the top runners will be going even faster. That's the trouble. It's a vicious circle, and that the more money you've got, the better resources you've got, the further you pull away, and those at the back get left behind. Now, Ford have still committed to Jaguar, and they're still throwing lots of money at the Jaguar team, and the Jaguar team finally looking as if they're really beginning to come together, but realistically, wait until next year.
You've got to remember that a wind tunnel, at the end of the day, is just a tool, though, you know, and like anything, whether it's CAD/CAM, computer-aided design, wind tunnel, whatever, it's producing figures from the figures that are put into it and the perceptions of those people who are using those tools. Now, if they start applying their perceptions incorrectly, or if the perceptions are wrong, or they start drawing the wrong facts and figures, putting those together, doesn't matter what they've got. They can have 5 wind tunnels. If they've got the wrong people putting this together, it ain't going nowhere.
Well, they've got 3 new aerodynamicists there, and hopefully.
Well, definitely. We can have a word with Jarno Trulli now, because he's standing right next to Peter Windsor.
Jarno, it's been a bit of a funny weekend for you so far, but great job in the spare car yesterday. What car are you racing here, first of all?
Well, actually I'm racing with yesterday T car, because my race car seems not working. Jenson did try in the morning, and he had the same problem.
What exactly is the problem with that car?
We don't know yet. It's just not performing. It's about 2 seconds off the pace.
So how does this car feel onto the grid now?
Not too bad. Even, you know, I wasted the whole weekend with a car which was not reacting, so I'm not pretty sure about the setup, but normally the car should be performing.
Oh, well, very best of luck anyway. Thank you.
Never cease to be amazed by how happy the drivers are to talk. Well, happy maybe a little bit strong, but they will talk at such a critical time.
Yes, it always amazes me as well that some of them are so focused that they don't want to talk at all. But the pit lane walkabouts have become such a point of the weekend that really they're very used to it.
So the thing about team radio, as soon as that caption appears, we stop talking. As soon as we stop talking, so do they. And I think there's a link up here. I'll find out.
They're listening to us, obviously.
Yeah, look, Michael having a laugh there.
At least he's laughing with us, not at us.
Just while we've got this momentary live, I'll also point out that there are a few VIP guests around today in Barcelona. We get information as to who they might be and the attendance chance. Now, apparently there's a 95% chance of Nick Cage and Gerard Depardieu turning out today. Only a 60% chance of Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton, which I imagine means that Billy and Bob are on board, but Thornton is being a bit prickly. Tom Cruise, Penelope Cruz, 35, 55% respectively, but they split up 2 months ago, so that's unlikely, and absolutely 0% on Elvis. Meanwhile, Nick Heifeld is waiting to speak to us, and we shouldn't keep him waiting any longer. Nick, you must be looking forward to this race. It's gone so well for you thus far.
Yeah, that's right. Qualifying was okay with 8th position yesterday, and also today, this morning, I was 2nd. So I hope that the car is even a bit better with a lot of fuel on board.
Nick, it's Perry McCarthy. Do you think that your Bridgestone tyres are going to give you an advantage on some of the Michelin runners in front of you as the race goes on?
It's difficult to say right now. I think so far over the weekend the Bridgestone were better, but how it's going to be on the race, I'm not sure. In the past, it looked like Michelin had the upper hand, but Bridgestone definitely improved a lot on the race distance.
Yeah, but you were very quick in warm-up. Do we take it that you did have a full fuel load in warm-up?
Well, we were not completely full, that's for sure, but we didn't play around, so it was normal.
Nick, Jeremy Hart here. You've got Jenson Button in front of you in the fast-starting Renault. What are your starts like at the moment? Are you confident of being able to make the most of this very long straight before the first corner?
Well, I think we can be quite happy with our starts. I think we have one of the best starts of all teams. It is just the Renault team which is stronger, so I think there won't be a chance to pass Button. It's more that I have to look backwards, that Troll is not going to overtake me, although, or especially as I am on the dirty side, but obviously I try to get the best.
Nick, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Enjoy the race.
Thank you.
He was talking about the dirty side there. You know, the right-hand side of the track is a lot dirtier because normally when they come down the start-finish straight, the cars are on the left, so the cars will be at a disadvantage.
See, the old pit radio did it to you again there. You stop, they stop.
They're listening to us, I told you.
But this is hard on tyres, this circuit anyway. You know, the speeds, which the long corners, all the rest of it. Hang on, I'm wandering into technical areas here. Perry, help me out.
It's an abrasive surface, but Michelin seem to have been a little too conservative. They've gone a bit hard on their compound, and this has hurt them in ultimate speed in qualifying, and that's why their grid positions aren't where they want to be.
I wouldn't want to be Mr. Dupasquier at Michelin, because he must be getting some very, very sharp looks and calls from Ron Dennis and from Frank Williams as well, because the speed of those two cars is all dependent on how inappropriate the Michelin seem to be in all but the perfect conditions for them, which is another 10 degrees hotter than this.
We were saying earlier on it's been a good weekend so far for Arrows. Here's Peter now with Enrique Bernoldi.
Enrique, first of all, you had a problem in the warm-up this morning. Can you tell us what happened there?
The morning was a hydraulic problem, but now the car feels okay, and I hope that can stay for all race.
Looks as if you're having a bit of a chat now with Michael Schumacher. What were you talking about?
Yeah, we just were setting up the new meeting point there on that corner.
Very good. Was it interesting watching out there?
Yeah, we could see some cars passing, but was just for 1 minute, so we just saw them pass twice, but it was nice.
I think your engineer wants to talk to you, so we'll let you go. Very best of luck.
Thank you.
I'm surprised if he was talking to Michael. They weren't talking about football, being a Brazilian and a German, but that's another subject.
Big Pele fan, as we discovered earlier on.
Yes, he's played with Pele, because Michael's got his own team in Switzerland, and was very excited about trying to get Pele to come and play for them. I think as a ringer, but would have been a bit of a giveaway.
Not a bad ringer, really. Even at, whatever age he is, 60, in his 60s.
Age is nothing anymore, thanks to certain drugs.
And moving on, Mario Tyson and Norbert Horg. I wonder what they're talking about. I mean, how much do they chat? How much can they chat about at times like this? I mean, presumably it's the weather, football.
It's kind of similar to drivers chatting, really. You're not exactly going to tell another driver exactly what you're thinking or what you're up to, but you discuss overall specifics. I mean, with the engine pit, they'll be discussing performance diameters, parameters, and what it takes to be a mega engine boss. They're facing the same overall problems, and that's what they'll be having a chat about.
Well, we can hear now from Jenson Button. Jenson, I don't know if it helps you or not, but we've got high hopes for you this afternoon.
Oh, that's really helpful. No pressure at all then.
We've got money on you as well, Jenson. It's not just high hopes.
Jenson.
Excellent. Hopefully it'll go well. I mean, it's so difficult to say here because it's a very tough circuit, especially when it's windy, and it's very, very difficult to overtake. But it's looking promising, and I think, with our launch control, we should be able to make up a couple of places.
A couple of places. Jenson, I've got you in the lead after turn 2.
I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go.
Jenson, what are the chances, do you reckon, of picking up your first podium here? Because you've had lots of fourths, but never a third.
Speed-wise, I think it's a possibility. I mean, in quali, we're a couple of tenths off of Ralph, who's sitting in third, but it's going to be a tough one, and if there's no failures, it's going to be difficult to get on the podium. But that's my aim. That's always my aim in every race. So let's go for it.
Best of luck, Jenson. Thanks for talking to us.
Cheers.
That's the man we should be talking to. That's Pierre Dupasquier from Michelin. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes at the moment, although they're considerably smaller than mine. But a lot of work needs to be done at Clermont-Ferrand if Michelin aren't going to get swamped in the next few races.
All right, Peter Windsor, a busy man at this time, of course. He's with Patrick Head right now.
Patrick, the Williams BMWs are up there. What are you doing down here by the Renaults and the McLaren? Just having a look around, just seeing what they're up to.
So how's it looking for you today?
Well, we're not really in a position to compete with the Ferraris unless they have a few problems, which is not right. We obviously intend to be competitive everywhere, but we've got a bit of work to do to improve the car before that.
Quicker than McLaren here, which is interesting, on the same tyres, a circuit that they've dominated really for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what McLaren's situation is, but I think we felt that we got the best out of our car yesterday, and maybe they don't feel that, so we'll have to, I think we'll be probably pretty close during the race today.
Well, very best of luck. Thank you.
Good, thanks.
We've been star spotting. We've spotted a couple now. Bernie Eccleston there, and King Juan Carlos of Spain just behind him on the left.
Two kings, I've been told to say, but in case it offends you, Bernie, I didn't mean it, and I don't really care about King Juan.
Bernie's Lord of the Manor, not king, not quite yet, and not in Spain.
Peter is a busy lad. He's got Giancarlo Fisichella right now.
Giancarlo, yesterday Eddie Jordan was saying that he doesn't yet think they're giving you the car that you deserve. But how did it feel onto the grid, the Jordan Honda?
Well, not bad this morning. There was a good balance, and it was quite competitive. Unfortunately, at the end, there was the red flag. I'm a little bit more confident than normal, but it's not easy because it's nearly impossible to overtaking other car, and the temperature looks good for our tires. So we'll see. I don't know.
Interesting first corner layout too.
That's very important. First corner is very important. I hope to do a good start to gain some position at the first corner, but I will be very careful because I don't want to finish the race at the first corner.
Well, very best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, there you are. Track temperature 22, air temperature 21, and I missed the humidity one. But how important is humidity? 61%, I think.
It can make a difference to the engine. What it does make a difference to is the driver, because you can feel inside the cockpit the changes in humidity, and that can really sap your strength.
OK, McLaren boss Ron Dennis joins us. Ron, your hopes for this race?
Well, first of all, reliability, and some points, obviously as many as possible, but it's going to be a tough race for us, we know that.
Ron, Jeremy Hart here. We're not used to seeing you make excuses, but you've had to make a few in the last few weeks. How much longer? I mean, how much more is it going to take to get you back where you belong and normally are?
Well, I never make excuses. I try and give people reasons, give them a better understanding. There's never an excuse for not being competitive in Grand Prix racing. There's only one place that we're ever comfortable to be, and that is on the front row and winning races. And we know how to do that. We haven't forgotten how to win. It's just the nature of this sport. It's an extremely competitive sport, and if you don't have everything perfectly balanced, then you're not going to win.
Hi, Ryan. It's Perry McCarthy. I know you might want to be a bit diplomatic to some of your partners, but for me, for McLaren, I think the biggest thing is going to be tyres, isn't it? If Michelin can really start zooming in on Bridgestone.
He looks pretty happy, Nicky, at the moment, despite the problems that Jaguar are going through, and the fact that Eddie does have to start at the back once again. We're taking another look at that list of winners. Williams' last victory here, as you can see, was for Jacques Villeneuve himself in 1997. That was from pole position, and in the early years around this Barcelona track, they dominated. 91 went to Mansell, 92 to Mansell, then 93 to Prost, and Damon Hill took victory here in 1994. Big battle with Michael Schumacher, and that was the day that Michael Schumacher got his Benetton stuck in 5th gear and still managed to finish in 2nd position.
Yeah, it's one of those races that just shows you that it's really the intelligence of Michael Schumacher in a race car. He did not allow anybody to realize that he had a problem. He still was able to lap within a few tenths of what he would have done had he had a full choice of gears, and it just really was another signal at a very early stage in his career as to what he was capable of and what he could go on to do. And I think he's exceeded everybody's expectations, and I suspect at the time probably Michael didn't imagine he'd be a 4-time world champion and is en route to make it 5 to equal that. of the only other driver in the history of Grand Prix racing to win 5 world champions, the great Juan Manuel Fangio, a hero to so many drivers of my generation, and I think around the world, or any generation of Formula One race fan.
The 10-minute signal given, and so other people on the grid have to start to clear the grid now so that the team mechanics and officials can concentrate on the start itself. Michael Schumacher going through the niceties of being introduced to some of the important people attending here at the Grand Prix today, and now he can start to focus on the job in hand, which is to get that Ferrari off pole position as efficiently as possible and to disappear in the distance. That's what he did last time in Imola, and that's what he's planning to do again here today.
Well, 2 great sportsmen, King Juan Carlos, of course, famous in yachting and boating, and coming along to Michael Schumacher, and just you could see the joy in King Juan Carlos and just shaking Michael's hand, and once again congratulating him on another stunning pole position. A much tougher battle for Michael this time, almost a mirror of what Rubens Barrichello provided Michael with back 2 weeks ago in San Marino.
I don't quite know what's going on down here, but it's providing some entertainment.
Well, it looks like Elvis Presley is still alive and well, the way he's clothed with those flared trousers, and well, that's just a bit of amusement. I think probably from one of the Finnish fans, there's a few Finnish flags around that particular area, with 2 Finnish drivers in the race. Kimi Räikkönen with that new Sean head of his, and of course Mika Salo in the Toyota. Toyota in their first year, and for Mika Salo finding it a bit tougher back in Europe, but I think the team anticipated it wasn't going to be the walk in the park that they seemed to enjoy in the first 3 flyaway races this year.
No, that's right. Everybody finding it tougher, wants to get back to Europe, particularly tough to beat this F2002 Ferrari chassis.
And then just listening to Ron Dennis a few moments ago, again explaining, saying, look, we know this is going to be a hard work afternoon for everybody, not just for the drivers, but for the team as well. And they are working flat out. Believe me, it is sore for Ron to have to admit that they're not at the minute at the level that they know they're capable of being, and where he believes they rightly should be. But they've had their turn, it's now somebody else's turn, and that pendulum will make a 360-degree swing, and no doubt McLaren will be back at the top, and it may not be that long.
Nick Heidfeld prepares to get into the Sauber, as we have 7.5 minutes to go to the formation lap. There's Kimi Räikkönen just being made comfortable in the cockpit of his McLaren. He started 5th every race so far this year for McLaren Mercedes. I'm sure that he'd love to get another podium finish. He finished on the podium in his first outing. That was in Australia, of course, despite picking up some debris from that first corner accident and having to make an extra pit stop, having stuff pulled out from behind his back in the seat, and he still came through to finish 3rd. Bernd Mailander, the driver of the safety car, and that's lined up, ready to go to lead them away at the start of the formation lap. There's David Coulthard preparing himself, ready from 7th place on the grid.
And just again picking up on some of the comments made by Ron Dennis, and he sort of acknowledged that we knew as well that a 3-stop race strategy is the quickest way to run this race. You also have to take into account the possibility of having a poor pit stop, and I think he's trying to convince us that Ferrari, certainly one of them may go for a 3-stop race, the other may go for 2, or both might go for a 3-stop. Clearly it is the quickest way, and with Ferrari with such an advantage over the rest of the field, they can cherry pick what they would like to do much more than the rest of the field behind.
Yes, that's right, and they can afford to go in different strategies and still look to a very strong result indeed. Rubens Barrichello climbs aboard. He's only ever had 1 victory with Ferrari, of course, and it must be about time that he scored another victory. That was the Hockenheim Grand Prix of 2000 when he won in a great style there, but it just hasn't come his way since then. Jenson Button ready to go from 6th place. I wonder how that launch control is going to work for Jenson here today.
Well, I think it'll work every bit as well as it has worked in previous races this year, and we saw at the end of last year just how efficient that system was becoming. It's it's complemented by the engine characteristics of that engine. Renault have designed that very wide angle, 111 degrees, an engine that's got a very wide torque band, and that's, I think, a factor that does help the Renault and its launch control to get off the grid. Once they get the mass moving, then having a very deep, wide torque band helps launch the car forward, and I think that's part of the contribution that is helping Renaults with these blinding starts. And of course, you've got Jenson Button on the third row of the grid alongside Kimi Räikkönen. No doubt Jenson will try and use all those advantages to place his Renault between Räikkönen, and if he can get up behind Montoya and to dispose the lead McLaren back into 5th place, well, he'll be delighted with that.
Yep, that's what he's after, and he's looking for his first podium finish. So let's wait and see what happens to Jenson Button here this afternoon. We saw Heinz-Harald Frentzen a moment ago, starting in 10th place. 34-year-old, starting his 134th Grand Prix. Plenty of experience, of course, driving for some of the top names in Formula One, for Sauber, for Jordan, and then, of course, falling out with Jordan a bit last year, and for this year, moving to Arrows.
And Rubens Barrichello, interestingly, starting his 152nd Grand Prix. And for all those people who keep facts and figures, that's the number of Grand Prix I competed in my 10-year career.
Right, so thank you, John. David Coulthard, of course, 8 years since he made his debut here in Barcelona. 8 up and down years, that's for sure, but disappointing for him that this year, where he thought perhaps he would have the biggest opportunity to challenge for the title, the equipment really isn't up to the task, and he's just got to keep his head down, keep working at it, and hope they get some good results later in the year. Marc Genet there, who was on the mobile phone, that's test driver for the Williams team, working alongside Juan Pablo Montoya and Ralf Schumacher. Take a look at the track, the S indicating the speed trap down at the end of the start-finish line. Sector number 1 going up into the Repsol curve, quite a short sector there that we can see. Sector 2 is completed on the run into La Caixa, and then around to the finish line itself.
Yes, and in qualifying, as opposed to in practice where we saw higher speeds, and in qualifying, quickest car down in that speed trap just before the 100-metre braking zone was Olivier Panis in his BAR at 316 kilometers per hour. Ferraris were second, then Renault third with Jarno Trulli. So in race trim, I would expect to see cars getting up to 320 kilometers per hour, because the one thing teams tend to do in any Grand Prix, but particularly here in Spain, is they will take an element of the downforce that they use for qualifying out of their car, in the vain hope that they may be able to find a way past in a racing situation on that straight.
As we know, though, that's always extremely difficult. Let's take a look at the grid then once again. Michael Schumacher on pole position for Ferrari, alongside him his teammate Rubens Barrichello. Then Ralf Schumacher, his best qualifying here. Montoya up 8 places from last year. Räikkönen 5th, then Button in 6th place ahead of Coulthard and Nick Heidfeld. Jarno Trulli yet to score any points this season. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 10th place, best qualifying session of the season for him, ahead of Felipe Massa and Giancarlo Fisichella in the Jordan, best qualifying for him since Malaysia. Then Olivier Panis in 13th, that's a place down on where he qualified San Marino. Bernoldi, his best qualifying performance ever. Irvine should have been next, but of course it's not him there because he has been put to the back. Jacques Villeneuve therefore moves up a bit, but he was disappointed after qualifying. Then it's De La Rosa, Mika Salo, Takuma Sato in the second Jordan, and then it's Alan McNish in the Toyota and Eddie Irvine there at the back. No time, of course, given to him. His times were removed because that fuel sample did not match up to the FIA fuel sample footprint or fingerprint. There is Flavio Briatore and Eddie Jordan just before the start of the race.
Well, Eddie Jordan having a really, really tough weekend, and I happened to looking back at one of the tapes that were made 2 years ago, one of the FIA review of the season tapes, and in an interview Eddie Jordan was saying, if I don't win a World Championship title with Honda, I'm afraid it will be a poor reflection on the team and myself in the future. And I hate to say it, Eddie, but it's your walk there just summarised that comment. And I wish you and the team every success and get back to the part of the grid that you feel you should be in, and I think that, well, by rights, you've earned to be there.
Ross Brawn watches from that gap in the pit wall. 1 minute to the formation lap now, so engines need to be fired up, and the cars drop down onto the ground in preparation for them making their way round on this final reconnaissance lap. There we can have a look at the tyres, the new tyres on the Williams, which is unusual. Normally the Michelins are using scrub tyres at the start of the race. It's usual to see new tyres for the Ferraris, but not so usual for the Williams.
And we've seen new tyres on Michael, and I think those are new tyres, just trying to get a look at Rubens, the way the light's shining in the tyre, but certainly new sets on those both of the Williams and on Michael. And as you say, Ben, it's unusual for Michelin. They tend to like to run the tyres prior to putting them on the car, but maybe the tyre philosophy at Michelin is also changing with the season.
So here we are, ready for the start of the formation laps. A chance to lay some rubber down. Watch Barrichello particularly on the dirty side. He might have the traction control fully switched off. or he might decide to leave it on. Let's see how much rubber they lay down, particularly on the left-hand side of the screen as you look at it.
Yellow flag.
Barrichello not getting away at all. Well, they don't know about laying rubber down. Barrichello has not moved from his grid position. Now, can he get going before the last man passes him? If he can, he'll be able to retake his position, but I don't think he's going to.
No, it looks very unlikely. We've seen Sato go through Eddie Irvine, the last car on the grid. Rubens Barrichello stranded on that front row of the grid. Ross Brawn once again.
Well, disappointing. If they can get him going quickly enough, he might still be... No, it's still not
hydraulics
running.
again, and we think maybe this is the same problem Michael Schumacher had this morning. Now, the engine's running, but it doesn't look...
Doesn't seem to be any drive,
There's no drive, and again, whether that's a hydraulic problem, that was the problem that inflicted Michael Schumacher when he was in that morning warm-up. Now, Rubens Barrichello, can he get... I doubt he's going to have time to get out and get into the spare car, because it's all set up for Michael Schumacher, and this is something that Ferrari are absolutely distraught about.
Well, look at it. It hardly moved. There was a tiny bit of movement, but they cannot get that thing to run. Well, it always happens to Rubens too, doesn't it? It's always his car that seems to go wrong. Poor Rubens Barrichello. He's not getting off the grid this time.
Well, he's not going to get off the grid, and he's not going to get into the race unless they can rectify whatever the problem Rubens Ferrari. You hear the engine running.
Yeah, that must be even more frustrating.
Let's have a look and see if he can select gear. If he goes through the whole sequence of launch control, if he can get it into gear, he can certainly take part in the Grand Prix. But of course, it's a question of whether he can find the gear and get the car rolling.
Dear, oh dear. So, disaster for Rubens Barrichello. If he'd been able to get going, he would have been able to work his way through to the front. They are allowed to do that now, but of course there was no chance. He's from the pit lane, and even if they get it running, he'll have to start from the pit lane now.
But this is manna from heaven for everybody else, for Williams, for McLaren, for Renault. Those are the teams that are at the front three rows of the grid. Even for Sauber, directly behind David Coulthard and Nick Heidfeld on the fourth row of the grid. And I mean, what a disappointment for the Brazilian Rubens Barrichello, delighting in the performance of the 2002 Ferrari, and then cruelly on the line being forced to push the car into the pit lane. And well, we just don't know whether they're going to get this car fired up or not.
It doesn't look very promising, does it? And the man who's now got some clear space in front of him on the grid will be Juan Pablo Montoya, who starts on the second row with a big gap in front of him. Whether that will help, there's a shake of the head from Rubens Barrichello talking to the team. They're saying, try this, do that, press this, try that, and it's still not doing anything. It's still not working. The grid is beginning to line up. We're waiting for the last few cars. There's still a number of cars to line up, but there's only a few seconds here before the race gets underway, and Rubens Barrichello will be left behind in pit lane. A real disappointment for the friendly Brazilian who put in so much effort in qualifying yesterday, but all that work has gone to nothing, and we are now all set for the start of round 5 of the FIA Formula 1 World Championship. We're in Spain, and away they go, and it's a good start from Michael Schumacher from pole position. Montoya with clear space, trying to get a run, but watch out for Button. Jenson Button is going to challenge Montoya into the first corner. Ralf Schumacher makes a move on his brother up front, but he's not close enough. And Button and Raikkonen side by side. Raikkonen gets in front of Jenson Button, and it's Michael Schumacher who leads his brother Ralf Schumacher. Juan Pablo Montoya is in third.
And it looks like it was a clean start for everybody. Great start from Michael Schumacher. Ralf did the business. Montoya behind them. Raikkonen had to battle because Jenson Button, in fact, had gotten ahead of the lead McLaren. But Raikkonen went round the outside in turn 1 and got position back in turn 2.
Raikkonen certainly aggressive at the start. Last time out in Imola, he managed to squeeze his way back past Coulthard after he'd made a bit of a bad start himself, Raikkonen, and managed to make up some important ground. Going through the shot is Heidfeld, and they still haven't got Barrichello going. Really, it's all over now. If they haven't got him going and he can join in on this lap, they might as well forget it.
Yeah, the car's going to be pushed back to the garage. The spare car, of course, set up for Michael Schumacher, and it's all over this afternoon. Disappointment in bucket loads for Rubens Barrichello.
So you're watching Nick Heidfeld. Now keep an eye on that Sauber. They may well try some clever little tactics on the Bridgestone tyres. He's got away in 8th position as our race leader. Look at him, already beginning to pull away from brother Ralf. The top 2 in the Drivers' Championship are 1 and 2 in this race. Michael Schumacher with a 1.5 second lead over Ralf in second, Montoya in third, and then on down the list, Raikkonen, Button, Coulthard is in 6th place, 7th position for Jarno Trulli, and 8th for Heidfeld.
Jarno Trulli got a benefit. Well, let's say one of those places is due to Barrichello, but already making up 1 place on the start. But Michael Schumacher just pulling away. There's 1.5 seconds when they came across the line. At the end of lap 1, it's probably about the same as they go into the Repsol corner. Juan Pablo Montoya trying to keep in touch with his brother as Rubens Barrichello sits there. Well, are they going to send him out or not? I don't believe they will do.
They're still trying to start it, so they're still trying to get it up and running, and maybe still hope to get him into this race. Montoya holding on to third place. He's got Kimi Räikkönen close behind him. Let's take another look at the start here. In fact, as it worked out, it was fairly even. Watch for Jarno Trulli, who seemed to make up a bit of ground in the second Benetton. We can watch Jenson Button in the sort of Renault, I should say. I'm calling it Benetton, that's naughty of me. And Button there managed to get away well initially, got in front of Räikkönen, then watch Räikkönen come to the outside, squeeze around the outside of Button, just about enough room for them both to get through there.
Yeah, but Jenson did, he was on the inside line, he braked marginally earlier. The car's moving, you can see the run he got, that's Räikkönen on his left. So he's behind Montoya. He's got the advantage at the start, but as they come down into turn 1, he's on the inside. He brakes marginally earlier. Räikkönen, you'll see, he'll shoot down on the left. Then he can stick. There is the nose of the McLaren. He now just bullies Button. And we know that Jenson's not going to go to war in the first lap, first corner of a Grand Prix. Last corner, last lap, different deal.
Räikkönen is very impressive on cold tyres, though it has to be said. He's very aggressive and worked that well. And look at Rubens, the frustration evident as he gets out of the car. He cannot believe it. He's only had one finish so far this year. That was second place out last time at Imola. Every other time something's gone wrong. The accidents in Melbourne and then mechanical problems every other Grand Prix since then.
Well, are we seeing an Achilles heel appearing in this year's Ferrari? Michael Schumacher this morning had a problem. He stopped out on track. Look at Rubens. I mean, just absolutely gutted. The guy's just going to walk away, just have a few moments of privacy and just get himself back to normal and come back and then have a debrief with the team. But of course Ross and all the other guys are on the pit lane, but he can't. Oh, and there's Pedro de la Rosa.
De la Rosa has spun, and I don't know if anyone else is involved. That's down at turn 7. That's the...
He was running in 19th place, and also we've seen one of the BARs has retired as well. Barrichello.
See if we can hear anything. Team maybe trying to make contact, but he's well in that gravel. I don't think he's going to drive his way out of that. And it looks as though De La Rosa's race could well be over. Irvine is ahead of him. Was ahead of him anyway, I think.
I just wonder, was that a bit of a race between the two Jaguars coming into turn 7 and 8? If you see another part of bodywork, a McLaren has shared a part of its bodywork, I think.
Panis on the move here. Olivier Panis trying to get past Frentzen. It doesn't quite come off, and Frentzen currently in 10th. It's rear wing of Räikkönen. It's the rear wing of Räikkönen. Well spotted, John. A McLaren rear wing. Well, we lost a Minardi rear wing. Was that contact? We didn't see anything. Who was behind Räikkönen? It was Jenson Button, and well, there's no evidence yet of any damage on his car.
And there we see the remains of that rear wing. And again, on the main straight, the fastest part of the circuit, Kimi Räikkönen driving around the racetrack. You saw him go around. This is the incident. Well, Pedro de la Rosa all on his own, turns into turn 7. The back end gets away, and it's down to you, Pedro. That was just simply a driving error.
He doesn't seem to go well in the Spanish Grand Prix. Perhaps the pressure gets to him. Now, let's take a look at the background. Watch for the McLaren.
There it is.
Goes the rear wing.
It just literally fell off. That rear wing just almost seemed to tumble off the back of the McLaren. Again, Räikkönen able to keep the car in control. Maybe he had a presence of mind to sense something had gone wrong. He maybe felt it. There's the back of Räikkönen's car. You can see Irvine comes past as he makes his way back to the pits. I mean, it's... Again, the main support for the ring, that main beam that attaches to the gearbox is there. It appears that the problem, the left-hand side of that rear wing, the right-hand side wing end plate is just lying over. So whether, again, I can't believe I've had 2 rear wing failures in the space of 4 hours here at the Spanish Grand Prix.
Very much a cause for concern. And the question is, John, what about David Coulthard? Is the team, seeing this, going to have to do something about David Coulthard?
I think the first thing to find out is, was there any contact that could have caused the parts in the car? They're just going to park the car. I think Kimi Räikkönen has decided we're not going to take part in any further races here this afternoon. Now, as you say, Ben, what are they going to do with David Coulthard? Is this a one-off? Was there contact with another car on the track? It's not as if that Räikkönen had gone off track, because the rear wing is not vulnerable to curbing as the front wing is. So that sounds to me as if it was something structural, simply just failed.
There is the car of David Coulthard, currently now running in 5th place behind the car of Jenson Button, and right behind him you're looking at Jarno Trulli.
And there you can see how the rear wing is supported. You've got that main structure attached to the gearbox, houses the rear light. Then there's two end plates attached at the outer ends. Then you go up, and then you've got the elements, those two elements plus the main plane of the rear wing.
Well, it's certainly a concern for McLaren. You'd have to wonder, they must be assessing the damage on Raikkonen's car, trying to find out what happened, and he might get the call, Coulthard. You never know, he might get the call to come in.
Then the other thing that we were talking about between morning warm-up and the Grand Prix is it is very critical, the exhaust, how it flows around, and if there's, again, a slight misalignment, for example, of an exhaust pipe, it will just pour hot exhaust gases onto parts of carbon fibre which are not designed for that intense heat. There you can see on the left of the screen that grey area, that is the exit of the exhaust system. Now maybe that has a contribution.
Let me just tell you, Fisichella has come into the pits. I think he's got some sort of problem. He was dropping down the order and he has just come into the pit lane. So Giancarlo Fisichella in trouble, and in fact driving straight into his pit garage. Oh dear, it looks as though it's over already for the Italian in the Jordan, his teammate.
Did you hear them telling you disposition 0? Let's just check the problem out.
Oh, now that's interesting.
Well, confusion between the pit wall and Giancarlo Fisichella.
Sounds as though he may not have set something that he should have done. And we were talking earlier on about how complicated it is now for these drivers, what they have to do within the cockpit to set things on the steering. And maybe something has gone wrong there. We don't quite know what's happened. There is Pedro de la Rosa running back in. Of course, his day over as well. We've got a number of cars out of this race already. Barrichello, de la Rosa, and Kimi Räikkönen. It looks like Fisichella. And Mika Salo must have had a problem because he's been in and out of the pits.
Well then, you know, like aircraft, racing cars have got backup systems. And it maybe seems to me is when something went wrong for Fisichella on the Jordan, he didn't make the right move, he didn't flick the right switch or turn the right dial. And I think that was the message that was coming from the pit wall into the garage when Fisichella drove into the garage. So it may be that Fisichella will return to the racetrack, but already now losing lap upon lap. Mika Salo also had a very rapid pit stop early in this race. He's running down in 17th and last place.
Michael Schumacher has an advantage of 5.1 seconds over his brother Ralph. We're riding on board with Olivier Panis in 10th. You saw the battle a moment ago between himself and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. You can see Frentzen just ahead on the road now, 9th position with 1 or 2 retirements. 10th for Panis, behind him is Takuma Sato in 11th. Bernoldi 12th and Villeneuve 13th. McNish still running in 14th. Irvine is 15th and Salo is the one at the back now, having made a pit stop, 16th.
But Michael Schumacher is increasing his lead by the lap by about a second a lap, and that's the kind of gap that we saw in qualifying between the lead Ferrari, Michael Schumacher, and the lead Williams, which is Ralf Schumacher. So look, there's the gap. Ralph's just exiting 13, Michael's 3/4 ways down the straight, and the gap now is 6.1 seconds with 7 laps completed.
Again, another very fast opening stint from Michael Schumacher. There goes Jenson Button, chased by David Coulthard. No word yet of any call from McLaren Mercedes, but there, Adrian Newey. Well, if there's a man who knows anything about technology of a modern Formula 1 car, it's that man, and you would have complete confidence in whatever he says should be done, whether David should stay out or whether he should be brought back in.
And complete confidentiality, because the team realise they see on their monitors on the pit wall that our cameras are looking into their pits. They don't like that. They just put the screen up and said, thanks guys, but that's, you've had enough.
Well, let's hope they do find the route to the problem there. Scary for Kimi Räikkönen. Again, it happened on the straight, and thankfully no other car was immediately behind him that got affected by the wing coming off, but a very nasty incident. We saw it on the Minardi of Mark Webber this morning, from one end of the grid to the other, from one relatively poorly financed team to one of the best financed teams in Formula 1. Things can still go wrong.
Juan Pablo Montoya once again losing out to his teammate in this Grand Prix. Okay, we're only on lap 9, but nevertheless it is Ralf Schumacher that is taking the Williams challenge up to Michael Schumacher and Ferrari. And Ferrari will no doubt be sitting on eggs waiting to see whether the problem that afflicted Michael this morning is going to continue in the afternoon. And I have a very good feeling whatever happened to Rubens Barrichello was a mirror of what happened to Schumacher Michael this morning.
So Coulthard, his last lap time was a 1:24.171. That was actually a fraction faster than Button ahead of him. but not really enough to talk about. And it's one thing here, particularly once you get into the slipstream of another car, very, very difficult to follow. There's the gap between the Ferrari and Williams up front. Ralf Schumacher, certainly Montoya staying much more in touch with Ralf Schumacher than we saw last time in Imola. The gap between them around 2.7 seconds currently, and then behind Montoya it is Jenson Button in the Renault, as the Williams team watch this with interest. They always knew they would be up against it here in Barcelona, but they must be have a little bit of a confidence boost by the fact that Ferrari are having some reliability troubles here, witnessed by Schumacher's problem in the warm-up and by Barrichello's failure to start.
Interestingly, at the very tail of the field, Mika Salo doing a very, very quick lap. Now he's on his own, doing 23.9, and that is as quick as anybody from the first three. Michael Schumacher accepted, but the 23s for Ralf and for Montoya, and Salo going very quickly indeed. Everybody else 24s, and then into the low 1 minute 25s.
Well, Michael's had one lap there where he wasn't quite so quick, maybe made a mistake somewhere, but now this next lap he's 1.5 seconds faster than Ralf Schumacher, and he's just disappearing once again. 8.1 seconds the gap between the lead pair.
A good battle here between Frentzen and the Arrows and Panis in the VAR. Two teams yet to score points this season, and Frentzen not really wanting to look in his rear view mirrors. He's focused ahead of him because he's got Felipe Massa, and he's running Felipe Massa down the gap 3.2 seconds. It was a little bit over that, and he really wants to get on terms with the Sauber, because just ahead of Massa is Nick Heidfeld, and then just ahead of him you've got Jarno Trulli, and Trulli is the last of the point scorers at this minute.
So we're looking at a replay here of Eddie Irvine. Let's just see what he was doing. Running a little wide, you can see the shimmy on that rear wing as he goes over the curb. And it just gives you an idea of how conditions change here at Barcelona, and to a certain extent how different the car is in race trim. They're a full 6 seconds a lap slower than he was in qualifying at this stage for Michael Schumacher, John. It's a huge difference. There is a much stronger wind today, temperature's not that high, and with the car in race trim, that's the difference, some 6 seconds a lap.
Yes, I think Michael's able to pull away very comfortably without even extending himself. Had time, just as he came down pit straight, to take one of those visor rip-offs that put on the main visor of your helmet. And normally you do that when you're running in traffic, but no traffic for Michael. Maybe just some unfortunate fly just went splot on his windscreen, on his visor, and he chose to take the time to do it. So, I mean, really, so far, Michael, just a perfunctory run for him, pulling away by a second to 9.3 seconds at the end of lap 10. And unless he is on a three-stop strategy, which he could be, he will need to pull away by at least a second a lap, because he will be beginning to make pit stops somewhere much earlier.
So let's just watch that Ferrari for a moment. It looks absolutely fantastic. He's using the curbs up to the white lines, but still very, very controlled for Michael Schumacher. And it's the balance of this car, the way that he seems to be able to put it wherever he wants, even when flat out, that is so impressive to watch. Here is Juan Pablo Montoya running in third position, lying in third in the Drivers' Championship, behind the two Schumacher brothers, but desperate for a decent result. This is where he scored his first points in Formula One last year, with a second position up on the podium behind Michael after Mika Häkkinen's dramatic retirement on the last lap. And don't forget, things can go wrong right until the last moment here, as at any Grand Prix. We saw it last year for Mika Häkkinen. Michael Schumacher's still got some 54 laps to go before he can rack this one up as another victory.
Well, 10.4 seconds came at the same time as Michael had a fastest race. Sato 22.8.
Look at Sato, he's right off wide.
Turn
into
13.
The gravel. And that looked to be like a driver error. We'll have to take a look at the replay. Looked as though he ran wide.
And that would be coming out of 12. I think he may have ridden the curb, but certainly spinning out. Well,
the Japanese driver, he's been certainly a bit wayward.
It's all over.
Let's take a look.
Too wide in the exit of 12. Gets into a tank snapper, still keeps his foot in it, to give him credit for being courageous and brave, but fighting a losing battle. And at this stage, Sato's race is over. Jordan's are now, both cars are out of this afternoon's Grand Prix. Once again, the Silverstone base team is going to go back to their base without a point in the championship. Poor Eddie Irvine, or Eddie Jordan, let alone Eddie Irvine. Poor Eddie Jordan, not a good day for the Irish. Irvine also struggling in 14th place, and Eddie Jordan saying, well, what have I got to do? What do I have to do?
Takuma Sato's car is carried away as Michael Schumacher comes across the line to complete yet another lap in front. 12 laps he's completed, and his gap 10.4 seconds last time around. Let's see what it is as we wait for Ralph to come across the line, and Ralph for 1:23.5. In fact, maintained the gap the same on that lap. Interestingly enough, the top two for once lapping at the same pace.
And Michael Schumacher's pace, he's dropped off now. Whether that was due to the yellow flag, he just might have backed off, but basically he's still, and at this stage of the race you might expect it anyway. But remember, last year's fastest lap was a 1:21.151. So far we've not seen anything yet in the 1:21s. The theoretical fastest lap was a 21.7, but so far no one's put theory into practice.
So through the tight left-hander climbing up the hill, Antonio Pizzonia watching closely. He's driving in Formula 3000 at the moment, and is also another of the test drivers for Williams. Marc Genet is the one who does most of the work there, but Antonio Pizzonia is another possible star of the future, and he's another Brazilian. Come through the British motorsports in Formula Renault and Formula 3 very successfully, and looking for his opportunity to get into Grand Prix racing. So Montoya comes through. He's still some 2.6 seconds behind his teammate, but the Williams drivers seem to be able to do nothing about Michael Schumacher. Ross Brawn watches the monitors, and this next lap from Michael, 1:22.4. So there is a bit of a change in pace on some of Michael's laps.
Yes, I mean, the fact in the last not Michael's just completed now his 13th lap, and the 12th lap, Juan Pablo Montoya was about a 10th of a second quicker than Michael Schumacher. Now Michael back down to his regular race pace in the middle 1:22s, 0.8 of a second faster than Montoya. So Michael maybe just making an adjustment, maybe something he was talking on the radio to the team in the pits. The gap 11.4 seconds, but most crucially Michael back into the middle 1:22s, while everybody else at best is doing middle 1:23s.
Now Eddie Irvine running currently in 14th position, a long way outside the points, which only go down to 6th, but he's still applying himself. Alan McNish is the next car up the road, and he's some 6.4 seconds behind the Toyota. McNish is still going. That's one of the main things, because Alan, of course, didn't even get to the first corner last time out at Imola.
No, and remember Eddie Irvine, we saw him in the pits prior to going on the grid, having that last-minute rear spring change, and poor Eddie must be thinking, well, you know, I've given 3 years of my life to Jaguar, and what have I got? I've got a car that is the slowest car right now in the field, and all I'm doing is just battling with myself and the car, and I just wonder what Eddie's thoughts are going to be, as he cannot really in the short term see much prospect of improvement for Jaguar. And when improvement comes, where's it going to place the team? It can't place them at the very sharp end. They could only bring them maybe up a couple more places on the grid.
A lonely race for him. There's no one behind him either to note, because Mika Salo, the only other runner, is 29.4 seconds behind, having made a pit stop very, very early on to sort out some problem. Now, watch Michael Schumacher up towards the Repsol curve. Turns it in neatly, just gets it tightly into the apex and hard on the throttle, and all 850 to 900 horsepower going down onto the road, and now into the tight Seat hairpin, just a little wide of the apex there.
And once again, another fastest lap of the race for Michael Schumacher, 22.196. So Michael just upping the pace, and I suspect once again being encouraged to do so. He knows he's under no threat. The only threat will come from, let me say, a real off-the-wall strategy that Williams BMW may be trying, but I can't see anything on sheer performance beating this man and his equipment this afternoon.
No, he looks supreme, and we've got the privilege to ride with the reigning world champion, the man chasing that record matching 5th title here today. It's a real privilege to have the chance to watch him at work.
But you could hear coming through turn 11, that's that double apex right-hander who's having to wait. He's holding back all the time before he can get the power down, and that indicates he's got a fair amount of understeer.
15 laps completed out of the 65, and we might start to see people coming into the pits on the next lap or two. Last year we saw 1 or 2 coming in from lap number 16, so if you go for a short first stint, then you may well see cars beginning to come into the pits fairly soon. Ralf Schumacher in 2nd position, and he's still 13.8 seconds off his brother Michael.
But Ben, more crucially, Juan Pablo Montoya has shaved that lead down to 2.4 seconds. He took 3/4 of a second out of Ralf Schumacher on that last lap. Jenson Button, he's 5.7 seconds behind Montoya, and falling away, he's also doing high 1 minute 23s, but David Coulthard 24.0, still a third, 1.3 seconds. So Button cannot relax, and he's in fact being driven by Coulthard. There is Coulthard, there is Button, and there's Jarno Trulli. So it's a real Renault sandwich with Mercedes in the middle.
Well, we've seen this battle a few times already this year. Last time out at Imola, Jenson Button managed to come home in 5th place. Said that was one of his best drives in Formula One so far, because he really took the battle to McLaren and had a great race throughout, and a middle stint in particular that enabled him to get that 5th place.
David talked before the start of the race about the back end of his McLaren. It felt very, very oversteery in the morning, and I suspect that as tyre wear sets in, he'll find he's going to have a difficult car. And the worst thing you have is an oversteering car, which is something that you haven't got control over. Look at the amount of work on the steering wheel. That's through turn 11. Watch him through 12.
Now through the final corner.
Well, that looks pretty neutral and comfortable for me, but nevertheless, what you see on board and on the camera, what the driver feels can often be entirely different. In the meantime, Michael Schumacher still continuing to extend that lead, 14.4, and once again the fastest car on the circuit through this first sector.
Now watch Coulthard as he comes up. Listen now. There's a pier, quite a long pier in that corner where they're off the power and then feeding the throttle open again.
Yeah, but I must say, David said it was oversteery in the morning. The balance in the medium and high-speed corners looks very good to me. He's not having to make many corrections. He's able to balance it very much on the throttle. So maybe things are coming to David Coulthard, now at 1.4 seconds behind Jenson Button.
Michael Schumacher's not too far off, lapping the first car for him today, and that will be Mika Salo, who made an early pit stop and is running in 15th and last position, and he's only a little way ahead. He's just gone through the final corner now, and now Michael Schumacher will begin to get a view of the rear wing of the Toyota of Mika Salo. Alan McNish still running in 13th place, 2 places ahead of Salo, but again a little bit on his own. Meanwhile, Bernoldi and Villeneuve are having a bit of a dice, as are Frentzen and Panis.
Yeah, the opinion is that both the BARs are probably being marginally held up by both of the arrows, and again that's a further indication as to what the BAR team may choose to do in strategy. So let's keep an eye out to see if BAR might choose to bring in Villeneuve or Panis a little bit early, get them out of sequence, but enable them to get back out and get onto a clear part of track to be able to run at their true potential.
Let's watch Michael turning into the downhill left-handed Seat hairpin, and they're taking this corner fairly quickly. It's still quite a fast corner, building up to about 130 on the exit of it, a little bit slower through the midsection, but it's still, the aerodynamics of the car are still coming into play considerably before accelerating down the next straight. Slow motion pictures showing us that car working to its best as Michael Schumacher continues his march forwards to extend the championship lead, which already is some 14 points.
And Michael, as he comes through turns 11 down through 12, you can see just ahead of him there is Mika Salo in the Toyota. Salo came into the pits very early, made a pit stop and back out, was running at that point very quickly indeed, running now in the low 1 minute 24s. But Michael Schumacher will want to find a part of track where he can get past the Toyota without having to lose time. Now, where he is, he's now, what, about 3 seconds behind the Toyota as they go into this long Renault corner. He'll be looking for cooperation from Mika Salo towards the end of the lap, ideally not getting held up in those final 3 right-hand corners.
Watch the rev counter on the left-hand side there of the picture. You can see how hard the engine's working. Oh, and we just lose the onboard camera. 18,000 revs or so is what they're revving to. Compare that to most road cars that rev up to 6,500, 7,000. Maybe if you've got a hot hatch up to 8,500, some of them latest, but still that's well under half the number of revs that these Formula One engines do.
And just confirming the progress of Juan Pablo Montoya, 2.6 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher. Ralph's got the message that his teammates on the march, and that's drawn Montoya away from Jenson Button, who's still got David Coulthard directly behind at 1.6 seconds.
Now Michael fairly close to Mika Salo, and Salo getting the blue flag. You can see the blue flag indicator on a corner of the screen there. The problem, when you get to within about 1 second of the car in front, is that even within a second, and that's quite a lot of distance on the road, your car's aerodynamics are being affected immediately.
Now watch to see Mika Salo. He will have been aware there's blue flags and a blue light in his car indicating a race leader. He pulls over to the right, and there's the flag on the right, lets Michael go through. And I thought, Michael would not want to get too close through those final 3 corners. He held back. He knew that the lights and the flags were going to be shown to Mika Salo, so no loss of time for Ferrari. Well done by Mika Salo. That's what the lights and the flags are there to do. But here, a battle, Coulthard and Jarno Trulli, and David Coulthard at the same time trying to run down Button, dropping back marginally as Trulli puts pressure on the back of Coulthard.
This is such a crucial battle, the one between McLaren and Renault. We've lost one McLaren, remember, that of Kimi Raikkonen, when his rear wing failed coming down start-finish straight. Didn't lead to any other dramas, but it's put Raikkonen out of the race. So we're one McLaren down, both Renaults still running. Truly then chased by Nick Heidfeld in the Sauber, who is 1.4 seconds behind. Felipe Massa in the second Sauber still running, and then it's Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 9th and Olivier Panis in 10th.
And the gap between Button and 4th to Coulthard, Trulli, Heidfeld, those 4 cars are covered in total by about just under 5 seconds. And the Renault team sitting very happily, shaking their legs. And no indication at all from Renault that they're thinking about making a pit stop as we now complete midway through lap 20. So the window for a normal 2-stop race would be opening around lap 20 to 24. But of course somebody or many people may choose to do a 2-stopper by going much deeper and maybe taking lap 27 to 29 as their benchmark for their first pit stop.
Yes, last year the McLarens went to about lap 27 before they came into the pits, but Williams stopped on about lap 21, so we do see a little bit of a range in strategy, and that will become a little more obvious as we go through the next few laps.
Yeah, so we just had some word from the pit lane, and Ron Dennis saying that there was no apparent sign of any contact with Kimi Raikkonen's wing, and therefore all we can conclude is that this was a failure, a stress failure primarily on the rear wing of Kimi Raikkonen's McLaren.
So that has to be cause for concern, and I'm sure they will be very aware on Coulthard's car. Maybe in his pit stop they might have a quick look around, but it's probably one of those failures that you can't see anything until it actually happens. Very difficult to determine when something's about to go. On the Ferrari pit wall, they're concentrating on just their one car, of course, after Rubens Barrichello failed to get away at the start of this Grand Prix. But their one car is where they want it to be. It's out in front as we ride on board Juan Pablo Montoya's car.
And this battle between the two Williams, they've been shadowing each other for about 3 or 4 laps. The gap down to 2.2 seconds. Montoya pushing very, very hard on this lap 22 of 65 to try and close up. And what he will be looking forward to is to get sufficiently close to Ralf Schumacher that when his time for a pit stop occurs, that he can get in and out and take that position away from Ralf during this first round of pit stops, which we expect to come fairly shortly.
A new fastest lap once again for Michael Schumacher up front to 121.7 as opposed to 123.1 for Ralf Schumacher. So Michael still pulling away lap by lap by lap. The Ferrari fans are loving this display that Michael Schumacher is putting on, but for the Williams guys, they are just feeling frustrated that they cannot stay on terms with this man.
Somebody else who's doing a personal best right now is Jenson Button in 4th place. He's 9.4 seconds ahead. I'm sorry, 9.4 seconds behind Montoya, but more crucially, he's increasing the gap to David Coulthard in 5th, up to 2.3 secons.
The Banco de Sabadell corner coming up, and then into New Holland, the 2 final right-handers of the lap. This will be 22 laps completed as Michael Schumacher comes around this time. So we're about 1/3 distance here. So pit stops very likely as we see a 2-stop race, the most likely outcome. He comes down into turn number 1, and we're still waiting for Ralf Schumacher to cross the line. That is the extent of his advantage.
Well, in fact, he's got more than the length of the pit straight lead. We're waiting to see Ralf come across. It was 19.3 seconds, now 20.2 seconds. The gap in 1st and 2nd place. And already we're seeing Toyota preparing for one of their 2 cars. McNish 13th, Mika Salo in 15th. Mika, of course, being in the pits very early and then rejoined the race, but he rejoined in last place.
Great view over the back of the Williams here, looking over that rear wing, and you can see the gaps.
Yes, but not so much the gaps. It's the way that Montoya has been shaving time off Ralf Schumacher's advantage. It was 2.2 seconds recently. Now it's 1.8, and Renault have decided, well, are we going to bring in Jarno Trulli or Jenson Button first? And the battle between the 2 Renaults for 4th, 5th and 6th place with McLaren is the highlight so far.
It is, and Coulthard knows he's got a battle on his hands here. McLaren may be going deeper into this race than Renault. We'll wait and see if that's the case. But these three guys absolutely on the limit, because they know that just a little edge on any one of these laps, or a little mistake more likely on one of these laps, and they'll be out of that battle for what is fourth position. Button in fourth at the moment, Coulthard in fifth. There you can see the gap, and then Jarno Trulli in sixth position. Taking a look, oh, and it looked like a little mistake from Coulthard, not a serious one, just the back end of the car, a little bit light under braking.
It just looked like he either just the brake momentarily grabbed, or maybe on the downshift, maybe that just grabbed, it just made the back end of the McLaren just go, oops, it is, and just a wake-up call for David Coulthard, just to remember that a car that he had found to be not very comfortable in the morning warm-up could still turn around and grab him.
Now, Button's gone through, so it must be Jarno Trulli. There he is, coming into the pit lane. So, Trulli from sixth position. That puts Heidfeld through up into sixth, and Massa goes through now as well as on the speed limit. Jarno Trulli makes his way to the Renault pits, and Williams now preparing also to receive one of their cars, either Montoya or Ralf Schumacher from second and third position.
So this is lap 24 for the Renault, 8.4 seconds, that's an average stop, therefore it's judged by the time, the fuel, so expect to see one of the two Williams, as we've also got now Toyota. We've got Villeneuve, McNish in the pits, Trulli back out on track as Michael Schumacher comes down through turn 13. No sign of Ferrari making an entry into the pit lane yet. And I mean, what does this do to the teams? Michael Schumacher just running away. 21.3 was his last lap, the time he just come across the start-finish line, and he's still running with more fuel on board than probably anybody else out there.
Yeah, and he certainly wasn't running late, because the sort of pace and the sort of distance he's gone into this race, there's no way he was on a light fuel load. Now, into the pits comes Ralf Schumacher. Ralf into the pits from second position now, so Montoya goes through in second, inheriting that from his teammate, and Montoya's next few laps will be crucial, because if he can put in a quick one or two here...
Down one hole on the front wing.
And they're making a change on that car of Ralph's.
And David Coulthard now with clear air. Both Renaults have made their pit stops. Jenson Button, well, he's in the pits. Of course, Jarno Trulli has gone out. He's actually done the fastest second sector of anybody on that out lap.
So, down to the first corner again. Michael Schumacher, another fastest lap on lap number 24, a 21.376, as Ralf Schumacher rejoins. And he comes in just behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen there. Frentzen currently running in 8th.
Jenson Button returns to the track. So Button, I don't know how long we didn't see his pit stop, so he come out ahead of Jarno Trulli. He was ahead on the road before the first round of pit stop, so the Renault team giving just about equal value to both their drivers, but of course Trulli up to speed, having given a very, very quick second sector on his first flying lap.
Let me tell you that Montoya will be coming in this time around. I can see that the Williams crew are getting ready. There we are. And so he will coming in. Whether he's been able to put in a fast enough lap on this just single lap that he's had.
He's in the box, steady onto the spot, up half a hole on the front wing car.
We'll try and keep an eye on where Ralf Schumacher is around the circuit and see whether we'll see a change for second place here.
And both Williams drivers making aerodynamic changes. Ralf having a change, Montoya doing the same. So fresh tyres. Are those new tyres? Problem right front. Yes, it's okay.
Yeah,
as you see, Michael Schumacher preparing 10.4, slow time for Montoya.
That was a slow stop indeed. The problem on the right front. And now he starts to come back out. Ralf goes through, and therefore Montoya will rejoin in what is effectively third position.
And he'll feel disappointed. 10.4 seconds was not maybe as good as you'd hoped for. A second off, that would have brought him just that little bit closer to Ralf Schumacher as he makes his way on the opening lap on brand new tyres around that long Renault corner down into Repsol. Be careful, your first lap out. Michael Schumacher in for the first time this afternoon.
So the Ferrari, the only Ferrari in this race, but it is the one that's leading by nearly 30 seconds as he comes in this time around, and the tyres go on. The Bridgestone tyres that are working so effectively here at the Circuit de Catalunya in Spain. And a bit of a delay getting the fuel hose out, but they do get it out. There was a couple of years ago, Michael Schumacher knocked one of his main men over. Nigel Stepney ended up with a broken ankle, but they did get it out cleanly, and he is now free to come out on track.
And of course, under no pressure whatsoever, because he'd built up a 30-second advantage before he came into the pits. Both the Williams have been in So we're just waiting to see how this all unfolds.
What we haven't seen yet is Coulthard come in. So David Coulthard has now moved up, and well, that should be interesting to watch, although I don't think he will have taken the lead of the race because Michael Schumacher had such a comfortable advantage. No, indeed, Schumacher comes back out in the lead, but Coulthard now in second place, and we're watching the Saubers making their way, one of the Saubers into the pits. There's Felipe Massa coming in, and Frentzen also in.
And Juan Pablo Montoya also on those new tyres, trying once again to hunt down teammate Schumacher. Montoya fastest in that second sector with those brand new set of Michelins, as Felipe Massa makes his way down the pit lane, gets out ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Frentzen will be disappointed. He wanted to stay, well, more in contact with the two Saubers. Comes out behind him. We wait until when the is at BAR's at Panis. Frentzen loses that place to Panis. The pit stop not quite quick enough. The BAR takes away the position from the Arrows. Ran behind him all that first session.
Yes, so Olivier Panis will be delighted about that, having followed Frentzen around for lap after lap. The pit stop has worked to his advantage. Panis pushing hard. You can see, oh, he's sliding that BAR around all over the place, but he was desperate to stay in front of Frentzen. Frentzen's very quick, straight out of the pits, and looking to get back into the battle himself. This one could go on all afternoon.
Just watching the two cars out of the Seat turn, the Arrows look to me to have the better bite, the better balance, the better drive off the corner. But the BAR and Arrows have been pretty much par in terms of out-and-out performance. David Coulthard.
Yeah, not stopped yet, John. So he's running in second place to Michael Schumacher. And Nick Heidfeld, who was in third, has just come in to the pits. So this Sauber's going well. I want to see where Heidfeld comes back out. This could be interesting. I don't think he won't challenge the Williams, but whether he'll be able to challenge the Renault, particularly of Jarno Trulli, I want to see that.
Well, there's one Renault, there's the other, and there is Heidfeld. So both the Renaults have gone through. So no advantage to either, and the two Renaults back to where they effectively were. Of course, as David Coulthard is now the only car that is out of sync of the top six. He is yet to make a stop. What McLaren are hoping to do is to go deep into this first stint, make a very fast first pit stop, and hopefully put them, when they come back out on track, ahead of Jenson Button. And McLaren, of course, we've seen doing this so many times in the past.
Yes, and it's been a very successful tactic often for them in the past. But let's wait and see what happens on this occasion. Last year here at Barcelona, David came in on lap number 28. At the moment, we're on lap number 27. I wonder if they're going to stick to the same strategy or change it slightly for this year. Michael Schumacher, look at that. He's made one stop. He's got an advantage of 11 seconds over a man who hasn't even stopped yet. And the advantage to the next guy is over 20 seconds.
But what's most crucial is that David Coulthard has made his personal fastest on every sector, personal fastest lap. He is being encouraged. He's not being encouraged. He's being instructed by the pit lane to say, David, push, push, push. We need to find more time. If we're to get you on the podium, have a chance of a podium. And right now, that's probably very marginal because Ralf Schumacher and Montoya are running within a second of each other. But certainly to finish ahead of the Renaults, you need to push.
Yes, it's to get ahead of Button that David Coulthard really is looking at the moment. That's his realistic target. Button currently in 5th position, remember. Coulthard not having stopped yet, still running in second. And here's this great battle that's going on between Olivier Panis and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, two very experienced Grand Prix drivers. Two drivers that have raced in more Grand Prix than many others down there in the pit lane and putting on quite a show, but for the moment it's Panis that has the advantage in the BAR Honda.
And inevitably, oh, there's the McLaren ready for, so David Coulthard is going to come in on lap 29. Oh, and does it Ralf Schumacher or something?
Damage.
Damage indeed. Is it barge board or something? It's hard to tell. Let's look at the side. Yes, damage to the right side of Ralf Schumacher. Was that the result of going off track?
Trying to listen. Montoya's ahead of him. Try and listen to the team as well. Montoya has got past him, so Ralf, I think, I don't know whether he made a mistake or what, but problems for Ralf Schumacher, and there is David Coulthard. So Coulthard makes his pit stop. The fuel goes on board. They're looking at that rear wing. Good close look at that rear wing, and I think
Ralf is in. Ralf Schumacher's come into the pits.
Now, where's David's going to come back out? Is he going to get out ahead of Button? Button's just come through the final corner. Coulthard comes down the pit road. Ralf Schumacher in the pits for a new front wing.
One more left front. Left front tyre. Left front tyre. Put that tyre back on then. Put that front tyre back on. Put that tyre back on.
Oh, and there's all sorts of trouble. They're going to put a used tyre. The new set of tyres, of course, still in their blankets. Wasn't ready for the car. Didn't expect to stop.
Oh, what a shame for Ralf Schumacher, second in the World Championship. And that has just cost him a huge amount of time. Meanwhile, Coulthard did get out ahead of Trulli, but behind Button. So that has stayed the same. Coulthard between the two Renaults, but it was a close run thing as they came down to that first corner. But Coulthard has once again rejoined in the same place. You know, John, I think they had a look at the rear wing on the McLaren. We're looking at the front wing on the Williams.
This is, I think, coming up to Kampser corner. Ralph, yeah, it is the Kampser corner. Ralph turns in, watch. Does he ride? Oh yeah, he gets a big wobble. He rode the curb. He then went back and stepped out. He had to correct, went across the track, across the dirt. And that damage, there you can see the part of the barge board came into the cockpit. Ralph had to throw it out of the cockpit, and the team also, just as a precaution, changed the nose on the car. That was a driver fault. Ralph made a mistake. He will pay the price. He could even find himself not on the podium.
Well, that is bad news indeed, and they weren't able to replace the barge board itself. They only replaced the nose cone and the front wing, so that will affect the handling of the car. It'll make it tough for him to do battle with the others. We'll see how he gets on as he comes around at the end of this lap, but he's lost an awful lot of places.
But no, this is the race of the race. It's the race of the Brits. It's an Englishman and a Scotsman. It's a French car, a Renault, and so Anglo-German Mercedes McLaren. The battle, 0.9 of a second, doesn't matter the time. There you can see David Coulthard pushed very hard before he made his pit stop, but to avail. He couldn't get sufficient time to put himself ahead, partly because the team wanted to check the rear wing, those supports, correctly in doing so.
Yes, the right thing to do, but they'd made such a good stop, and he'd done some very quick laps before that. If they hadn't had to do that, I think he might have got out ahead of Button, because it was so close as they went down to the first corner. Look how close behind he is now, and well, all he can do is push as hard as he can. He probably won't be able to overtake at this stage. He's got to stay with Button and try and do it all over again at the next stop. There is Adrian Newey walking back from the pit wall. They will have had a look at the wing. Obviously, they're happy at the moment that it doesn't look likely to fail, as did Kimi Raikkonen's in the early stages of this Grand Prix.
Well, they come across start-finish line, half a second. The problem for David Coulthard is the problem that everybody here in Barcelona suffers from, that you get to within half a second, and then the effect of the rear wing, the way the aerodynamics flow around a Grand Prix car, turbulence off the rear wheels, it affects the front wing and how it interacts with the surface. David will start to pick up understeer if he's not careful. That'll lead to a little bit of deterioration. But look, closes down under braking into the Rapsol. He's not going to go by what the theory says. He's a racer. He's going to have a go, whatever it takes.
Meanwhile, Ralf Schumacher rejoined. He's now in 13th position. He lost around 40 seconds as a result of the pit stop to change the front wing and the front left tyre. That's a total time of 40 seconds. That puts Ralf down in 13th, only just ahead of Eddie Irvine. So he's now got to get past people like Alan McNish, Jacques Villeneuve, Bernoldi, even to get into the top 10.
And David Coulthard basically had a car he said was an oversteering car, wasn't looking forward to this afternoon's Grand Prix. Well, maybe running in the turbulence will even out the balance of the car. What it might do is actually make his car even more drivable. Could be one of the strange quirks that you get when you've got a car which doesn't give you the perfect balance, and in traffic it suddenly starts to come right.
Michael Schumacher's car seems to be running right. He's still lapping in the 1 minute 21.7 second bracket. Still has the fastest lap in this race at a 1:21.3, which he earned on lap number 25. He's just lapped Eddie Irvine. Now, here's his brother. He is down in 13th position. He was running second, remember, and that's how close he is to being lapped by Michael Schumacher.
And haven't we seen so many cars through the 3 days of this Grand Prix? They ride the curb up in Kampser corner and you pay the price, but here's a real battle now. Jensen has got his mirrors full of silver and black. McLaren, Mercedes-Benz, David Coulthard definitely wants a podium position. He must want that podium.
The interesting thing is that Jarno Trulli is closing up to them. If you look behind, you'll see the other Renault catching up. Now, I wonder if this set of tyres on Jenson Button's car not working as effectively as that first set, or whether they made a slight alteration in this pit stop that it isn't working out for him.
Well, what's clear is the pace of Button is dictating the pace of Coulthard, but Trulli is sufficiently far behind to be able to run about 0.6 of a second a lap faster, which is now allowing the Renaults once again to create this sandwich. Whether Button's got a problem, whether he's just sort of sitting back and saying, well, I'm going to drive at a comfortable pace. I'm not going to let Coulthard intimidate me. If he thinks he can get past me, let him do so. I don't think he's going to be able to.
Coulthard applying the pressure. Here we are onto the start-finish straight, building up to maximum speed. You're looking back from Jenson Button's car at the McLaren, getting closer.
He's coming,
he's
coming.
Look at this, down the inside. David Coulthard goes for the move into the first corner. Button tries to defend, but he can't. There's a little bit of contact almost, but he gets out of the way, and delight within the McLaren pit as David Coulthard gets past Jenson Button, and that puts him into third place now with the demise of Ralf Schumacher. Surely Jenson Button's got a problem here, because Jarno Trulli has closed right up as well.
Yes, and I'd expect to see the Renault team saying to Jenson, if you can't maintain the pace, if you can't challenge Coulthard, let Trulli go through. Trulli is running quicker than you. Don't hold him up. We want to get on the podium. We want to score as many points as possible. But David Coulthard planned that well. He got a good run out of turn 13. He picked up the momentum. You could see in the second half of the straight, he had superior top speed to the Renault Button, and there was a clean pass. Jenson didn't make an issue of it. He could have been harder. He could have been a little bit more of a, let's say, use his one move to block Coulthard. He didn't choose to do that.
So Coulthard has moved up to third place. Let's take another look at this. A great slipstream, picked up the toe, but you have to say Button must have had some sort of problem. You wouldn't have expected him to be down on speed quite that much, and then squeeze down the inside. He had to just jink out as Coulthard came through, but a straightforward overtaking manoeuvre for David Coulthard.
I don't think Coulthard would have found that pass. Yes, team, let him go past, let Trulli go past. I think I have to say Jenson could have been firmer on that manoeuvre. He could have been a little bit tighter. He didn't have to block, he just had to put his car in a position that would have made it difficult for Coulthard to shoot down the inside. Having said that, you know, it's up to each driver to choose their race.
Michael Schumacher has lapped Ralf. Ralph's got out of his way, as is really he has to do. Now he's not in the battle for the race, and in fact Ralph's not lapping quickly. I think the loss of the barge boards really has affected the handling of that car, because he's now down in the 1 minute 24s, and he's not that close behind the next car, which is Alan McNish.
So we watch the two Renaults and see at what point that team command is going to be given. Well, Trulli being held up now. Renault instructing Button to let Trulli get through, and he will have to do that sooner or later, but there's no point in Jenson. He could do it here coming out of Campsa down into turn 10. Let Trulli slot down in the inside, but Jenson again staying. Trulli's pace has now dropped down to that of Button, and of course Jenson doesn't want to sort of lift off and then be under attack from Nick Heidfeld, who of course is the car directly behind Trulli.
So is he going to let his teammate through on this next lap? They'll be coming along the straight in just a moment. A couple of right-hand bends to go through, and then over the grid and onto the main straight here. And Button currently in fourth, but has already been asked to let Trulli come through. Meanwhile, we've seen some battles going on through the field. There is a battle going on at the moment still between Enrique Bernoldi in 10th and Jacques Villeneuve in 11th. They were very close together as they came across the line last time around. They've been in a battle all through this race, much as Panis and Frentzen have been. It's Arrows versus BAR Honda today, further down the field.
But the car that really is coming alive right now, forget about Michael Schumacher, he's up and gone, is David Coulthard.
Button get out of the way, John, just to show you there that Button moved wide, let Trulli through, no problem.
I think there was maybe a selective radio message to Jenson to say, we've given you an instruction 2 laps to go, would you please obey that instruction? But the man who's really pushing him right now is David Coulthard. He's 13.5 seconds behind Montoya, but lapping again about half a second a lap quicker on that last lap, lap 36.
Now the problem for Button is he's going to have to watch out for Nick Heidfeld, because Heidfeld's actually not far behind in 6th place. There are the two Renaults, and you could just catch a glimpse of Nick Heidfeld in 6th position behind them, and Heidfeld's been on a bit of a charge himself, and there could be an opportunity. Massa is still running in 7th place, then Panis in 8th, Frentzen 9th, Bernoldi 10th, Villeneuve right behind him. They were only half a second apart on the last lap round. He's in 11th, McNish is 12th, Ralf Schumacher 13th, Irvine 14th, and Mika Salo still running 15th.
Looks like Jenson Button's got a fair handful of understeer as he comes through turn 13. You can see on the angle of the steering wheel, he did a lot of lock on to get the front of the Renault to bite to get him through turn 13.
Michael Schumacher's coming up on that Bernoldi-Villeneuve battle. We just saw it flash through the picture. Absolutely together, those two. They could be awkward when Michael comes up. They'll have to get out of his way, but unfortunately it might break up their battle, which would be a shame.
But if Jacques Villeneuve has got any brains, and he's got tons of brains, he'll let Michael go through and then try and grab a slipstream to put him ahead of Bernoldi, because both drivers will be obliged by blue lights, yellow flag. There goes down. Oh!
There comes Villeneuve. Villeneuve down the inside, and he's done it this time. And that's great opportunity for him, because with Michael coming up to lap them, it's best to get it done now. And so these two are having their battle. Their teammates are still involved in their frantic battle. Olivier Panis is 8th, and Frentzen just as close behind him in the other arrows in 9th.
You could see Bernoldi wasn't about to make it easy. Here we see the replay. Bernoldi goes from left of track across right. As look at Villeneuve right across the pit and entrance, almost only a car width between him and the arrows, but gets the place. Bernoldi pulls back, does the correct thing. Good pass by Jacques Villeneuve, well judged. Well, it took a long time to get in position to do it. Once he was in position, didn't take him long to execute it.
We mentioned a moment ago that Button's going to have to watch out from Nick Heidfeld. Well, Heidfeld's still getting closer in that battle for what is 5th position, as Michael Schumacher closes up a little more to Enrique Bernoldi. But both arrows are running at the moment, and that's good news for them after all their reliability issues this season. Happy that they've actually managed to get some testing in between Imola and this race in Barcelona.
And here's the pressure now coming for the second time this afternoon for Jenson Button. Nick Heidfeld in the Sauber Petronas on the Bridgestone tyres, about to do, well, he's going to look for somewhere around the track. The top speed of these two cars should marginally favour the Sauber. They've got more power with that Ferrari-based engine. Jenson Button with the Renault V10 improving all the time. Very clever engine design. Very good bottom end power. Pulls him away out of the low speed corners, where the torque of the engine really benefits the drag out of the corner, but the top end will suit the Sauber. Nick Heidfeld closing through the camps of the corner. Been the bogey corner pretty much after all afternoon for 3 or 4 cars.
Yeah, that was the corner that Ralf Schumacher went off at earlier on, bounced over the grass and ripped the barge board off the Williams. He still runs, but he's down in 13th, and once again his lap time's not good. I think Ralf Schumacher's day, effectively in terms of scoring points, is all over. He's not going to be able to fight his way up the order. But Jenson Button has a battle on his hands. The car not responding nearly as well as it did in the first stint for whatever reason, and he's now got Nick Heidfeld here closing up, and behind Heidfeld, watch out for Felipe Massa. He's still some way behind at the moment, but these two are maybe slowing each other down, and Massa gained another 0.4 of a second, and he's some 4 seconds back on this battle.
And we got a quick glimpse into Heidfeld's cockpit, and you can just see the position, the relative position of his hands on the steering wheel, and the amount of movement he required to go through turn 13. To compare what we saw with Jenson a few laps earlier, where Button was having to fight understeer. That's his problem right now. He cannot get the front grip. He's got to slow the car down more than he needs to do under a normal circumstance to get the front end to bite before he can open the throttles. That's allowing Heidfeld to draw himself up to the back of the Renault, but he's gotten to a position where he's almost now stalled out, cannot maintain his momentum, and he's going to have to start thinking about, what am I going to do to get past a car running slower than me.
Enrique Bernoldi's just come in, and I don't think it's a regular pit stop, because he coasted in. The team was not ready for him. They are changing the tyres on Bernoldi's car, but I'm not quite sure what happened there, because they did not seem to be ready for him at all. He was involved in the battle with Villeneuve, and I wonder if he hasn't picked up some sort of technical trouble.
In the meantime, race leader Michael Schumacher comfortably in the lead by 35.5 seconds. Now coming up to lap Jacques Villeneuve, and this will be all the way up to 10th place, will now be lapped by the race leader. Blue flag, Jacques again, as we've seen earlier, before the pit stops, pulls over and lets Michael go through. And well, just almost sort of ironic that 5 years ago these two battled in the final Grand Prix of '97 to see who would be the world champion. And, well, Jacques went one direction, Michael stayed in his direction. He's won 2 at Ferrari, and certainly at this early stage in the season, who's going to bet him against a winning 3 for Ferrari in a row.
Look at Heidfeld once again, very close behind Jenson Button in this battle for 5th position. You saw Bernoldi come out of the pits. They spent a long time there. They look to be resetting some of the electronics on the steering wheel to me, so it looks like it was a technical problem. They did get him refueled and new tyres on, but they certainly weren't ready for him at all, and Bernoldi therefore drops down the order, gives Villeneuve a bit of breathing space, as Villeneuve perhaps now tries to close the gap up to Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's quite a long way up the road. Some 14 seconds he's got to make up on him.
And to give you some idea of the pace of Jenson Button, he's now 5.8 seconds behind his teammate Jarno Trulli, who was allowed by the team to go through some 4 laps ago.
Williams team getting ready to receive presumably Montoya. It could still be for Ralf Schumacher, of course, and in fact maybe it is Ralf, because they've got another front wing ready. The car has not been going well, so it's probably Ralf, the car not handling particularly well, so they may have readjusted. Now, what was going on here?
Well, they've got a fire
stop?
extinguisher. They're aiming it somewhere around the back. Whether this, I don't know if it can't be a brake problem. Sometimes the brakes, when you come in very hard, do catch fire, but well, they sprayed something onto the back of the car as we go back to this battle between Jenson Button in 5th, Nick Heidfeld in 6th. And Heidfeld really getting stalled out now, running behind the Renault. Can't get any closer, can't maintain it. It would almost be better just to drop back a couple of 3/10 and then take another run.
Now, let's just see what's happening here. We might see Ralf come in there, and we might see Frentzen come in a little earlier than otherwise planned, because he's being held up behind Olivier Panis. Panis won the battle on the first round of pit stops, or perhaps we should say the BAR Honda team won that battle, but Arrows may try and get them back by bringing Frentzen in earlier. Meanwhile, Ralf Schumacher's into the pits now as Montoya. We ride with him through the final corner. Ralph's car being worked on, and they're putting another front wing on, which no doubt has been reset to try and give him a better front-end grip. Looks as though he might have been struggling there.
I think he has been struggling, but just interesting to contrast again with Montoya as he came through turn 13, how much lock he's requiring, not as much as Button, but still quite a lot. Again, an indication that the front-end grip for the Michelin team cars is not as good as we're seeing with the Bridgestone.
Comes out just behind David Coulthard and ahead of Jarno Trulli. That is the other battle to watch out for in the second round of stops, although Coulthard does seem to have the advantage over Renault now. But that's Button versus Heidfeld, and their pit stops, their second pit stops, will be crucial in terms of deciding the outcome of the battle. This is the Williams crew making their way back in, I think, after Ralph's stop. I don't think they're quite ready yet for Montoya, but of course they've got to switch the fuel hoses. Very heavy, those fuel hoses. They weigh some, when they got the fuel in, they weigh some 65 kilograms. Needs 2 people to carry them and get them ready to plug into the car.
And of course it's a very inflexible hose and a very difficult piece of equipment to use. Nonetheless, Juan Pablo Montoya, as we now see Renault preparing for one of their 2 cars, which of the 2 is going to come in first? I suspect it may be Jenson Button doing it early because he's got a problem. It's an understeer problem. Eddie Irvine also in problems and about to pull out.
Yeah, Eddie Irvine slowing right down. We saw De La Rosa go out earlier in this race after a mistake, plunged him into the gravel, and now it looks like mechanical failure for the Irishman. Now this could affect somebody coming into the pits. Oh dear, and we are expecting one of the Renaults to come in.
And I think that will be Jenson Button. I think the team are going to bring him in at the earliest possible opportunity to give him another set of tyres to try and enable him to get back out, get up to speed and to consolidate. And okay, it'll put him out of sync once again, but it may enable them when the second round comes, and it's Button into the pits, as is Heidfeld.
Button and Heidfeld, and Eddie did a good job driving onto the grass to get out of their way as they come in. So this is a crucial battle between the teams in the pit lane. This is the opportunity for the mechanics to get their man ahead. Who's it going to be to win this one? Heidfeld. It does depend on the amount of fuel that has to go in the car as well. Fairly long stop, and it's Heidfeld's going to get out in front of Jenson Button. Oh, is he? They're both on the speed limit. Well, what about this? Now they get on the power, off the speed limit. He shuts the door on him. Heidfeld versus Button into the first corner. Button surely going to attack.
No, he's not. He's on the brakes away to Heidfeld, but much deeper. Jenson is very, very cautious. We've seen that in the first lap. We've seen it and when Coulthard came past. He is not going to take a chance. He got on the brakes, and you could still see Heidfeld was still on the throttle at that point.
And Heidfeld went a little wide in the first corner there, but kept it together through the all-important Renault corner on the power early, and Heidfeld has gained that position. So, good move from the Sauber team. They didn't seem to need to put quite as much fuel in as Renault, and that has gained them a position, a crucial position.
So Jenson Button capable of lapping very quickly on his own. The one thing I'm beginning to sense from Jenson throughout this season is he doesn't show some of the levels of aggression we see from other competitors. Jarno Trulli in.
So Trulli comes in. Now remember, he's still involved in a battle with Coulthard, although Coulthard does seem to have the edge there at the moment, having run a very long first stint, and presumably won't have to put quite so much fuel in when he comes in to make his second stop. You can see an 8.4 second stop for Jarno Trulli. And he comes back out onto the circuit once again. We're still waiting for Michael Schumacher, Juan Pablo Montoya and David Coulthard to make their second stops.
And Olivier Panis, he's in the pits also, so that gives Frentzen an opportunity to get some free air, clear air, because he'll be back in very shortly as well. Because they're running within half a second of each other, he will try and do his own personal best, which he has just done in that first sector. In the meantime, Heidfeld and Button, this battle that we've seen pretty much through the middle sector in the race, swing has gone to Heidfeld. Jensen's got to focus, he's got to push. He's basically, I think, just got to get in and kick you know what.
Well, they've dropped down a bit behind people who've only stopped once so far, but give it a lap or two and most people will have made their second stops, sorting out the order once again. On board with Juan Pablo Montoya, and yes, just pulling over to the edge of the track there, I think was Olivier Panis.
Yes, he stopped. In fact, that car's on the pit lane exit. Whether that was the result of a pit stop, there he is, he's just getting out of the car, and I think that was the result of the pit stop. Something has gone wrong, and we've seen that happen so many times.
Felipe Massa is coming into the pits. Now, he was gradually closing up to that battle between Heidfeld and Button. I don't think that he's going to be able to feature in that battle, but let's watch and see.
And Frentzen's in as well.
Frentzen in as well. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the arrows from 5th position. These two had moved up, but of course now with these stops, it'll drop them back down again.
But more crucially for Frentzen, he was in that battle with Panis. Now that Panis is out, he doesn't have to worry. The team can be more selective when they make their pit stop.
Now watch where Massa rejoins here, because Heidfeld and Button are coming down the straight at the moment. Frentzen gets away, bit of a slow stop. Watch Massa. I think, yes, in fact, Heidfeld and Button have just gone through, and he rejoins behind them once again, but he may be a bit closer to the battle than he was.
But what times Harold Frentzen? He's now again in clear air. He's going to be zeroing in on Felipe Massa in the Sauber. So Frentzen, having been able to get rid of more through mechanical problems than anything else, Olivier Panis, as second place Montoya's in.
Juan Pablo Montoya down towards the Williams pit garage from 2nd position. He finished 2nd here last year, inheriting that on the final lap when Hakkinen retired, and they were his first points in Formula One.
David Coulthard 1:21.931. He is still pushing absolutely to the maximum.
He's
gone past Montoya.
For Montoya in the pits. Now, I don't know what happened there, but one of his guys seemed to have tripped and fallen. There was a definite problem for him, and there, well, that's Ralf Schumacher going through, so that's not a big deal, but there was definite problem for the Williams crew.
Yes, it's one of the fuelers. Looks like he was caught maybe when the car moved, just wasn't ready. Montoya back out on track. That again will have cost vital seconds, and hopefully there's no injury to that particular engineer.
Well, let's see what happened. We'll might get another chance to look at that in a second or two. The Williams crew getting themselves shut away, and it all looked a little bit overexcited, and maybe somebody... Let's just take a look at the replay here. Came in, stopped, everything looking okay so far. Both front wings adjusted, front wheels fitted. Now, something happens here. They get the jack out. Oh, the fueler still engaged when Montoya moved. Now, that is a surprise. The jack was pulled. That is very, very dangerous. The fuel hose still engaged, and the board was lifted. He did lift the board.
Yes, well, that's down to the man on the lollipop. A misjudgment, and let's hope that the injury or any bruising you can see, bullying, well, left ankle, certainly that will be very, very painful indeed. And now we see Michael Schumacher coming in as David Coulthard. Coulthard has been working so hard all afternoon, and he really on merit deserves a podium finish. Good stop, 7.8 seconds from McLaren Mercedes. So David Coulthard has a very good chance now of consolidating his second place.
Yes, well, second place, that's right. Montoya's coming down the start-finish straight at the moment. Will Coulthard get out just behind?
He's gone by, he's through.
There is Montoya's second. Coulthard comes out in 3rd position. So a possible podium here for David Coulthard after Montoya's problems, and as long as Montoya doesn't get penalised in any way, any sort of issue with a penalty after what happened there in the pits, Michael Schumacher. Well, it's another perfect stop from Ferrari. What can you say?
Well, it's been an ideal afternoon for Michael Schumacher, never challenged to date, but he must have a thought in his mind. That problem with Rubens Barrichello, the problem that Michael himself had in the morning warm-up. You know, we have still a 65-lap race, 18 laps remaining, a long way, and anything can happen.
Schumacher rejoins then. He's got some clear space at the moment. Villeneuve coming around that final corner. Villeneuve running in 9th position, and the stretcher being prepared for the Williams mechanic, and that's a sorry sight. And of course, it's always dangerous in pit lane so much energy, so much tension, and it can go wrong with just the slightest slip.
Well, this is motor racing's version of ballet. It's so choreographed. Teams practices. There's so many people involved. Really, if one thing goes wrong, then it all collapses. Dickie Stanford just coming out of the pits as the stretcher, the gurney, is taken into the Williams team. He will be taken to the medical centre and will receive any treatment that the team, the doctors, feel are necessary. Watch Frentzen trying to hunt down, Frentzen chasing Massa with Button just ahead of him. Nick Heidfeld now 4 seconds ahead of Jenson Button.
Yes, but Jenson Button has to watch out for Felipe Massa, who, as we thought, with that pit stop, came out behind Button, but not far behind him, and there was only 0.7 of a second between Button and Massa when they came around last time.
Well, that's a little battle. Again, Jenson hoping that he's got a better set of rubber on his Renault. It was clear that he couldn't run at the pace on that second run that he was able to do, but there, the battle, look at Felipe Massa right up. Now, we know that Jenson isn't the most aggressive racer. Felipe Massa, we haven't seen him race, but I suspect, look, Button runs wide, loses grip. You can see now Massa's going to have a punt on the inside, isn't he? Yes, oh yes, go on, no. Yes, he is, yes, he does.
He makes it by the looks of it, but can he hold it? You know, Button's definitely got a problem with that car, but no, Button fights back again on the outside. That's pretty impressive stuff. Now Massa tries to cut down on the inside, on the exit of the Seat hairpin. He can't quite manage it. The next corner doesn't really allow overtaking, but get out of this one quickly and then through the next right-hander, and you might have an opportunity on the run towards the La Caixa hairpin, and there are the Sauber boys watching his progress.
He's not close enough. He can't get close. Aerodynamics again come into play through Campser corner, difficult corner to run close behind another car. His best shot is going to be down coming out of turn 13. Watch the understeer that Button's got. If we get the onboard view, watch the position of his hands in the steering wheel. Look at close Massa conclusive. He's got grip. Button's struggling. He's off the throttle where Massa is on the throttle.
So that's the problem for Button there. Again, he loses speed through there. Massa very quick, loses a bit of downforce, but he should have a decent run on Jenson Button this time as they cross the line. 48 laps completed by the leaders. Can he get enough of a slipstream, as we saw Coulthard do earlier? He's not quite close enough here, and again he has to follow the Renault through the first couple of corners.
But again, watch Renault on the exit coming through this long corner. This is where Button had picked up a fistful of understeer, had to back out of it. Massa again closer this time as than the exit, as he had a look down the inside. He didn't get the job done last lap. This time Button just able to defend more convincingly.
And watch out for Frentzen behind. That flash of orange you saw a moment ago. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is joining into this battle. What fun. We've got a good fight going on for the remaining World Championship point. This is all about 6th position.
And of course for Arrows it will be the most important point if they can find a way past Massa and Jenson Button. They've yet to score. We've not seen any points for BAR. Jordan are out of the thing altogether. Jacques Villeneuve running in 9th. He's behind this battle. Leclerc again. Massa. This is Jenson Button coming down the end of the straight. Look at the vibration on the front wing. Partly that's caused by the disturbance of the air coming off the Renault. Vibration, front wing, vibration, rear wing. But Felipe Massa not in a position to challenge.
Well, here's the man out in front, Michael Schumacher, having another new lap record. Look at that, a 120.4, what a stunning lap, a 120.355, and that's 0.8 of a second faster than his existing lap record from last year. Well, he just wanted perhaps to prove how fast this car is, and he's done it on a new set of Bridgestones after his final pit stop.
As Michael comes down to the end of the straight, he's going to shortly catch up to this bunch of 3 cars that are squabbling over that last position, 6th place in the points. So it's going to be a couple more laps, and Michael's going to be looking at putting a lap on Frentzen, then Massa, then Button. As they're all focused, just zoning in on one another. They must never forget race leader coming through. They will get blue flags, they'll have a blue light in the cockpit. They must get out of the race leader's way.
Michael Schumacher has a 44-second advantage. Massive lead over Juan Pablo Montoya. Coulthard is some 7 seconds behind Montoya, and then the gap back another 10 seconds to Jarno Trulli, still running in 4th position in the Renault. Trulli has had a horrible season so far. He would be pleased to finish in 4th here today. Heidfeld is running in 5th position, and then we've got this battle for 6th. It's all about Jenson Button, Felipe Massa and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and there are the 3 cars.
And it seems as if either Button's car is just picking up a little bit more grip, or simply that Felipe Massa has got himself to a position where he can't work out what to do. How can he get past the Renault? And in the meantime, look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen and the orange arrows he's pulling up to the back of these two cars substantially quicker.
Great views once again, flashing past that new grandstand in Barcelona, and the fans, I think, really concentrating on this battle. This is the major battle of the race now, and it's about 1 point. Sixth position, it gives you 1 point, and it's crucial to teams like Sauber here and teams like Arrows as well. Kimi Räikkönen, I'm afraid, walks away after that rear wing failure. Sadly, his day is done. There's his fiancée, Jenny Dahlman, the Finnish model, announced his engagement just a couple of weeks ago. But for him, he's out of the race as we ride on board briefly with Juan Pablo Montoya.
And again, watch his hands. Look how much steering lock. I mean, that's almost a half a turn of the steering lock. Look. I mean, you should never have anything like that amount of lock on a car in a high-speed corner like that.
So still struggling for balance, but you know, Williams will be pretty happy to get a second place here. That might be better than they could have expected. The trouble for them is in terms of the constructors' battle, which they've been fighting with Ferrari, is that they've got just the one car in the battle for points, as Ferrari have this time.
And really, you can see the struggle Montoya has. He's got understeer, and then he sort of tries to balance it and throttle in it, flicks into oversteer. No front end grip, and that's the problem we saw with Jenson Button as well. He's battling out for that final point in sixth place. As David Coulthard, 6.4 seconds. Coulthard running, in fact, the Coulthard and Montoya running about the same pace. Coulthard sometimes seems to get a second breath and can push that a little bit harder. It just depends ultimately on the balance of these two cars in respect of who's got more or less of that lack of front grip.
So David Coulthard continues on his way, chasing down Montoya if possible, but really I think that he would be relieved. And look at this, Massa close again to Jenson Button. Dear oh dear, it's the same corner. That is, I think, really the main possibility for the Brazilian to get past Button, but it didn't quite work again, and now Massa's got to keep an eye on his mirrors because Heinz Harald Frentzen is right there and ready to take advantage of any little slip-up.
Well, we know that the Arrows is quick in a straight down the main straight, 314 kilometers per hour, fifth quickest car so far. As we look into the Williams garage and see a little bit of treatment going on that left ankle. So Frentzen's got a marginal straight line speed advantage, but can he get close enough on the exit of these final three corners onto start finish straight to take any advantage? In the meantime, Michael closing up, but something like a second a lap.
Yes, he is closing up, although Michael's not pushing quite as hard as he was earlier in the race, that's for sure, having established his superiority. Now he wants to look after the car and count down the 13 laps that remain. Across the line, once again, this trio of cars. Jenson Button fighting to hold off Felipe Massa, and Massa having a good look in his mirrors now as that Ford Cosworth-powered Arrows closes up at the end of the straight.
Well, Heinz will be aware that Michael Schumacher is closing down as well, and he might well try to get the job done before Michael closes up behind him. On the other hand, he might say, well, when Michael comes through, I'll slip through as well. But these three... That's Jenson, he's got fuel surge from the Renault.
Fuel surge through turn two, and that's not very helpful at all for him. If the car's cutting out, that explains why he's always a bit slow through that section of track, and that's where Massa always gets a run on him. The other sections of track, he seems to be able to just eke out a bit of a gap again.
Well, fuel surge is very rare in a Formula One car today. The fuel tanks are constructed in such a way it's almost impossible for any fuel.
Normally, it's a hydraulic problem. We should be able to get to the end.
And he said a hydraulic problem there from the team.
I can't imagine a hydraulic problem affecting fuel flow, but, well, that's the team's diagnosis of Jenson's description of the problem, and they're better placed than we are. And again, now you see the pressure that Massa's under from Frentzen, getting right under the Sauber's rear wing. If Frentzen can use the speed of the Arrows down the straight, he could have a pop as they come down at the end. This is the end of lap 54.
So can Frentzen, the experienced driver in the Arrows, try and find a way past the man in his first season of Formula One, Felipe Massa. Massa moves around a little bit, not close enough, and that looks like the main area. Now, this is the section where Button's in trouble, as he reported on the radios, up through here. And this is where Massa nearly always manages to go.
Whoa, big wobble.
Oh, dear. I think Massa knows he's got to be quick through there. This is his opportunity, but it's not this lap.
But also, you see, every team can monitor everybody else's radio. So no doubt Sauber team have picked up that Jenson's got a problem. They'll be telling Felipe Massa a problem for the Renault, particularly on the exit of turn two. Use your advantages, try and get the job done. You know, look right behind him. That's a very wide angle camera lens. the distance between Sauber and Arrows is in reality much less than you see on camera.
Now, coming up through Kampse corner, this is where Ralph went off a little earlier on. Ralf Schumacher's mistake, which ripped the barge boards off the car and has seen him drop down the order. Ralph currently running in 11th place, and still the lap times nothing to write home about for Ralph. So it's been a disappointing day for the man running second in the championship, but this battle's great, and what a fantastic view we have on board with Felipe Massa. Look at that Arrows, the way it's twitching around.
Michael Schumacher just coming into view behind the Arrows. Now he's probably trying to do everything he can to avoid getting involved in this battle. He's backed off. He's got a 40-second advantage over Montoya, so he can afford to run at the pace that these two cars right now, three of course Button just ahead, are running at. There's the top speed, 3:16. Raikkonen 3:24.
Yes, that was earlier on in the race, of course. Before, well, that was. I wonder if that was the lap Raikkonen lost his rear wing or not.
Could well be.
With a bit less drag on the car. So Button carries on round, still holds off Massa, and he still holds off Heinz-Harald Frentzen. But with just 10 laps to go, is that going to be the way it finishes? Or is somebody here going to make a little mistake? That is what could make the difference. Michael Schumacher following them.
And the Arrows appears to be able to make ground on the Sauber as they turn into that downhill left-hand corner at Seat. Always a difficult corner. The bite the Arrows has got at the front appears to be oh, and again close as they come through Kampse. Watch the exit. Where's the Arrows? Well, he has to back off a little bit. He just cannot maintain that close proximity, and then he loses out in that run down into Lacay. So that's the double left-hander. Always difficult to get bite going in, then traction off the corner. You can hear the traction control in the middle of it.
Let's just watch them for a moment through this section. Back on the power once again, and now Frentzen desperately trying to get up under the rear wing of Massa as they come through the last corner. Again, we've got this view looking straight over the back of Felipe Massa's car in 7th, and he's checking his mirrors, looking this way and that, and Frentzen's still not ready to make his move. He may just be comfortable to hound the youngster for the moment, perhaps not even try and make a move for a lap or two, just to try and worry him.
Interestingly, Jenson Button is now marginally quicker on that last lap, but again, on the exit, Button seems to lose that ground. Whatever the surge he's talking about, you know, I can't imagine. It might be, I mean, it can't be fuel surge. It must be oil surge he meant, because talking about hydraulics, with the pictures they have, they may be able to move oil around the tank, have a reserve of oil or something. So Jenson Button again pulled away marginally.
Oh, and Massa's gone past. Something's happened to Button. Massa's just gone past, and Jenson Button suddenly slowed, and there is the Arrows past as well. So there must have been some sort of problem there. I just suddenly saw that Massa had nipped through, and that's put the Sauber into 6th place. Well, how about it?
And Jenson Button, whatever that surge problem is, it clearly played a major part in him losing at 6th place, the final points position of the day. Blue flag now. I think Jenson's going to go into the pits probably. I can't imagine that he'll want to continue unless the team say stay out, stay out, stay out. He's staying out.
He's staying out. I don't know quite what happened when Massa went past. Just suddenly saw that Massa was ahead, and Frentzen nipped through at the same time. So whether under pressure with a car that's not handling, Button made a mistake, or whether they just died on him for a moment, I'm not quite sure. There is Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's not pushing. I think he's been quite happy to just sort of follow them round. Let's take a look here.
He made an error. He was just way offline entering. Either he would brake too late, he just certainly was far too far to the right going in through turns 7 and 8, and then you see Frentzen just scrabbles round on the dirty offline part of the racetrack. Let's look again. The Button's way off. What's he doing away out there? Was that a problem? Did maybe momentarily he lose power or something? We'll find out later after the race.
It almost looked like he'd let them through, but he's still running, so it's not as if he had a terminal problem with the car. So we'll have to wait and see. He has been lapped now by Michael Schumacher.
And now Jacques Villeneuve running very close to the rear of Jenson Button. He's about to take away the position that Jenson has just recently inherited.
Yes, that's 8th place, so Villeneuve 9th, but looked to gain one. Behind him, McNish is still running. Good that Alan may finally get a result in. It won't be the points, but it would be a finish.
And David Coulthard working pretty much all in his own, pushing again, 5.6 seconds behind Juan Pablo Montoya. You've seen Montoya having to deal with a lot of understeer this afternoon. In the meantime, David Coulthard has worked long and hard, and hopefully he will get a reward with that podium finish. 5.6 seconds, 8 laps to go. It's a mountain to climb. David, braveheart as he is, he will try.
So Montoya lapping a fair bit quicker than teammate Ralf Schumacher, and that just shows you that Ralf Schumacher's car, after the damage was done earlier, never recovered, even with a different nose cone. It was the barge boards, the loss of the barge boards, those little bits of carbon fibre that sit behind the front suspension, sweeping on the McLaren. We talked about the one on the Ferrari with its new sawtooth edge, and the barge boards that guide the air around the car, under the car, through the side pods, gives you an idea how much difference they make. It might not look significant, but Ralph's about 2 seconds a lap slower than his teammate at this stage in the race.
Well, David struggled just a little bit midway through that lap. He may have dropped a tenth. Well, he's not. He's picked up 4 tenths. So it's 5.2 seconds, but the mathematics do not work. 7 laps of this Grand Prix now remaining. All Coulthard can hope to do is have a problem for Montoya. He's driven a superhuman race, I think, all afternoon, with a car that he thought was going to be difficult at best and probably purely recalcitrant at worst.
Coulthard then really has responded to the challenge of a difficult season, doing what has to be done, and that's applying himself, and he's certainly done that here this afternoon. Had a tough time here last year when he stalled on the formation lap, the introduction of launch control, something went wrong with the system, had to fight his way from the back and finished in 5th. He seems to have fought his way all afternoon here as well, but he is in that all-important 3rd position, and that would be a little bit of a relief after being lapped at San Marino in the San Marino Grand Prix. Well, at least this time he's on the same lap as Michael Schumacher.
Yes, and the gap, of course, there's about half a lap difference between Michael's position on track and David Coulthard coming through turns 9, 10 into 11. In the meantime, Michael Schumacher probably coming out of the Seat curve. So it's about halfway between the lead car, Michael Schumacher, and number 3, David Coulthard.
A day of disappointment for McLaren, though, and you have to say that rear wing failure a big cause of concern. Kimi Raikkonen going out so early on when the rear wing fell off the back of the McLaren. They had a good look at Coulthard's car earlier, and let's just hope that nothing goes wrong with the back end of his machine here after we've seen those dramas. Look at Frentzen, he's still applying the pressure to Felipe Massa. They both got past Button, but Frentzen still pushing the young Brazilian.
Indeed he has to, because Tom Walkinshaw's on the pit wall giving a right bit of an ear bashing to Frentzen and say, get a move on, I need that one single point, you need it. We've got to get our team off the blocks, we've got to get more than that 0 point we've had so far out of the previous 4 races. The young Brazilian had pressure all round, doing a good job. Very experienced Heinz-Harald Frentzen behind him in the Arrows, and great to see Arrows running strongly. For the first time this year, we're seeing Frentzen in a competitive position.
Yes, a chance to score a point. We haven't even seen him with a chance so far this season. And now with just this car of Felipe Massa to challenge, the Sauber crew are still looking concerned. Don't forget that Nick Heidfeld is running in 4th place here. That's one of their best results of recent times. So excellent run for Nick Heidfeld in 4th, and what Sauber are hoping for is to have both cars in the points here this afternoon. Best finish for Nick Heidfeld in the past has been a 3rd place, but 4th would do very nicely. Thank you very much for him and the other Sauber.
In the meantime, just coming from the pits, we've heard that one of the problems, maybe not the only one, that Jenson Button is going through this afternoon is gear changing. So they're saying to him, you keep to the minimum the number of gear changes you're making. Now that's not particularly easy, but running all the way down to 9th place, and he's some 12 seconds ahead of Alan McNish, it's almost an irrelevance.
Great shame for Jenson Button after some very strong races recently, but that's the way it goes sometimes. This is the battle that we're enjoying for the final championship point between the Sauber, the Swiss team that uses Ferrari engines very much as a customer. They bring those Ferrari engines in, and what a great engine it is. It's last year's Ferrari engine, but it's still very strong. And they're up against the Arrows team here with the Ford Cosworth power, same engine as Jaguar uses. That is a very strong engine, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen's now got a chassis that can show what he can do.
But Tom Walkinshaw did tell us over the weekend that they're about 3 steps behind where the factory Jaguar engine is, which is essentially the same engine, but just slightly more developed. He'll be knocking on the door of Ford saying, give me more power. If you can't get the job done, at least give me the opportunity to have parity in horsepower and let me get on and give you something in return for your investment.
Now, look at this. Why is
Trulli slowed down?
Trulli is, well, he was, as they went across the line, he was a lot further ahead. He was 3.4 seconds ahead of these two. So Trulli seems to have some sort of problem as well now.
Well, truly, and now Michael Schumacher, in spite of trying to not catch up while he's backed up again, Truly's in trouble.
Truly's definitely in trouble. There goes Massa. Felipe Massa already goes a little bit wide. Felipe Massa has moved into 5th position, and arrows are into the point. Heinz-Harald Frentzen moves into 6th, but Renault, what is going wrong? Poor Jarno Trulli. It just never comes together for him. Every time he's in a decent position, something goes wrong, and it's the same story here today.
Well, what a day of highs and lows for teams. Renault looked so strong in the early part of the race. They sandwiched David Coulthard. Kimi Räikkönen, of course, retired from McLaren. Coulthard now in 3rd place. Both Renaults out of the points and struggling. Arrows in the points for the first time this year. 2 Saubers in the points. And still Ferrari dominate.
Still Ferrari up front, but we've watched some great battles further back. This was the moment. Trulli had no answer. He didn't try and block Massa. The car simply is not working properly. Massa didn't get too overexcited. I thought he might do for a moment.
Again, the rear wing on that Sauber, maybe again might say turbulence, but it just looks the way that the wing is mounted on the Sauber. It's slightly more flexible. It certainly, you could see a lot of movement, lateral movement. And there we see Trulli pulling out. And that's a Button or Trulli?
A Button, I think that's...
It is.
I think it's Button who's going so slowly now. And so Jenson Button, oh, what a shame. He's had a very disappointing afternoon. 4th in the World Championship before this race, but well, it looks as though it's over for him now as he pulls off.
And that sounds like a cement mixer, bag of nails, and Jenson Button has finally retired.
Didn't make it to the end of the lap. Yeah, understood, Jens.
Well, that's a great shame for the Renault team. They put in a huge amount of effort. They've shown those cars are more on the pace now, but they've got to work on the reliability. But what it will mean, I think, is that Coulthard will move to 4th in the Drivers' Championship. He'll move 1 point ahead of Jenson Button as their battle to score points continues. But Nick Heidfeld also looking to score well here. Both Saubers in the points. 4th and 5th place they're running in at the moment. Well, that's certainly something to write home about.
But I think the biggest result of the day, if this happens, 2 laps to go, Michael Schumacher virtually in a position to lap 6th and 5th place cars, is for Tom Walkinshaw and the Arrows team. They've had a difficult season. They've had a quick car, but not a reliable car. The car has been quick today. So far, I hate to say it, it's run reliably. Bernoldi, of course, retired much earlier in the race. He had his problems, retired some tour halfway through the race.
Well, we're still watching Massa versus Frentzen. That battle continues, although Frentzen perhaps won't take any huge risks now to get past Massa. It might have been worth it earlier to get into the points. He is already in the points now, and perhaps it's not worth a huge lunge on Felipe Massa and then risk not getting anything at all.
And of course, Michael Schumacher happy to let these 2 battle away. He's coming up to complete the penultimate lap. He will go across the line. 1 lap to go. So Michael sits back and watches his former German teammate in that junior Mercedes-Benz team back in the late 80s. As Michael commences now the final lap, as this battle for 5th and 6th place has 2 laps to go.
Michael Schumacher then heads for victory number 57 in his career. They just keep coming. Race after race after race. Michael Schumacher dominating the early stages of this 2002 World Championship. It will be his 4th win of the season and a hat-trick of victories, and we have to go back to the end of 2000 and the beginning of 2001 for him to get a run going. Jarno Trulli coming into the pits. Well, it's all gone horribly wrong for the Renault team. Feel desperately sorry for them after providing us with great entertainment in this race and looking so strong at certain times. But for Michael Schumacher, everything has run like clockwork. Once again, when problems affected Ferrari in the race, they didn't affect the car of Michael Schumacher, they affected the other car of Rubens Barrichello. He didn't even get away from the grid, and Michael Schumacher has driven wheel perfect all afternoon.
Yes, it's just been a masterclass from Ferrari for Michael Schumacher. Again, lifts his hand now. You don't see Michael do that too often, but acknowledging the tens of thousands of Ferrari fans, many of whom have come from Italy, many of whom, of course, are Spanish.
Michael Schumacher comes through to win the Spanish Grand Prix. It's the 4th time he's won here in Barcelona, and once again, Nobody has ever won 4 races here, so he sets new records on his way to further extend his championship lead.
And he wins his 57th Formula One World Championship Grand Prix. And, well, where's it ever going to end?
Well, you have to say, John, he is the dominant force, the dominant driver, the dominant team. And just take a moment to think what Ferrari have done with this car. Once again, it is unbeaten. The 2002 Ferrari has not been beaten in either qualifying or race. Juan Pablo Montoya finishes in second, and that is a boost to him and to the team. But the fact of being beaten so cleanly and so comprehensively by Ferrari is so disappointing. And in fact,
okay, Michael, well done.
Just looking at that, I think is Ralph's car that has just expired on the last lap.
Yeah, you did a job, and much more. You have given me a wonderful dream car for us. Really, all of you guys, I'm very happy. I'm sorry for Rubens, this poor guy. I mean, it's hard to believe that it always happens to him. I really feel sorry for him. So guys, okay, thank you.
Felipe Massa finishes in a fine 5th position. Heinz Harald Frentzen takes the first point of the season for Arrows.
And Michael Schumacher gave me a performance worthy of any Oscar. And but of course it is sincere. He means it. He did not know if he was going to suffer the same problem that befell his teammate. But Michael Schumacher once again just in a class, in a world of his own. Interestingly, that Juan Pablo Montoya, by coming in second, puts himself 3 points ahead of Ralf Schumacher in the Drivers' Championship. And that'll be within the Williams BMW team. A very tightly fought battle indeed.
Yeah, but he'd be 18 points off the World Championship lead.
Very good race, very good.
And just seeing there what happened to Ralph as he's pulled off at the end of the race. Just quickly looking through the results, Coulthard getting the podium. That will put him ahead of Button in the championship, as I mentioned. And also looking on with Sauber, both cars in the points. Let's just take another look. What happened to Ralph here at the end?
Well, wait for the big Clyde. There it comes out of the right-hand bank. That is an engine problem. And just literally on the last lap on the water. Now there you have to say, there's a water leak. How the water leak occurred, maybe different versions.
I think that's the first BMW we've seen expire in a race this year, though, so they've had a reliable run up to now. As Mika Salo gets out, both Toyotas finished, and Alan McNish ahead of Mika Salo. They were 8th and 9th.
In fairness to Salo, he did have that one early pit stop, which was an unscheduled pit stop. He had 3 pit stops, and of course that's maybe part of the reason, but not to take anything away from Alan McNish, who's really, I think it's the first Grand Prix he's finished this year.
Well, he did get a finish in Malaysia, finished in 7th. They had some problems there, but otherwise that is his first finish, so he's had a tough time with reliability. Michael Schumacher at 44 points ahead of Montoya on 23 points, so a huge advantage for him as we see further on down the list. Nick Heidfeld scoring very useful points here today. He's now on 5, and Montoya climbs out of his Williams after working hard this afternoon.
An interesting, Ben, as well. Michael Schumacher finished this year's 65-lap Grand Prix some 30 seconds quicker than he did last year, and that was without any pressure. He was never at any point in this Grand Prix pushed. He only drove the pace he chose to drive at, and even that was good enough to drive away from the opposition.
Yes, for lap after lap, he was quite content to sit behind the battle we were watching for 6th position. He could have been a lot further ahead if he tried. 35.6 seconds his advantage, and it's time to start celebrating now.
You think you're at Monza, you wouldn't realise you're in Spain when you see that new grandstand absolutely filled, and the cheers and acknowledgements as David Coulthard again, a very, very good drive. David did a great job for his team.
McLaren are 3rd in the Constructors' Championship as they were, but the interesting thing is that Renault and Sauber are now tied for 4th position in that Constructors' battle, both on 8 points. Renault failing to score today after it looked like they were going to get a decent result out of both cars, and Sauber getting both cars within the points.
Yes, and interesting and nice to see Paolo Martinelli, who is responsible for the Ferrari engines, he's going to be the Ferrari representative on the podium to accept the manufacturer's prize.
So let's take a look at the results then. Michael Schumacher winning for Ferrari ahead of Juan Pablo Montoya in the Williams BMW. Coulthard surviving to finish in third place, a hard-fought third place. Nick Heidfeld in fourth position ahead of his teammate Felipe Massa, and both cars in the points for the second time this year. But Heinz-Harald Frentzen scoring a point for Arrows. That will be major relief for Tom Walkinshaw with the budgetary problems that so many teams are having. That is a huge help. Jack Villeneuve 7th ahead of McNish. Sarlo truly still classified, but of course he did come into the pits.
Well, remember back on Friday afternoon we spoke to Tom in the pit lanes, and I said to him, Tom, that performance from Frentzen at that point, they were second quickest in practice. I said, Tom, that's got all the makings of a sponsorship time, doesn't it? And he said, well, I've never heard a sponsor write a check after one practice session. Well, maybe now, after a Grand Prix, after your first point in this year's World Championship, you may find some sponsors keen to associate themselves with your team. Well done, Tom, and to everybody in Arrows.
And of course, sometimes the contracts are performance related anyway, so once a team starts scoring points, it brings more money in according to the contract. So great news for Arrows, it's exactly what they needed, but Renault for Jenson Button and Jarno Trulli, deep disappointment towards the end of the race, particularly for Trulli, who's had a tough time, hasn't scored any points this season despite being competitive. His time will come, I'm sure, later on this year.
Well, a familiar sight for all the Ferrari team. The engineers, Michael's personal trainer and dietitian, as the three come out. Michael again. I don't know, he sees people. When he's on the podium, he always winks at somebody, thumbs up, little acknowledgement. So many members of the team come out and he just catches their eye as King Juan Carlos of Spain congratulates all three.
Michael Schumacher then receiving the applause from the fans here in Barcelona, round 5 of the World Championship, and it's another victory for the 4 times world champion.
Well, I wonder how many of these bring him pure joy, but I think this one was also quite sweet. Didn't have to work for it as hard as in the past, and he does enjoy a good scrap. Nevertheless, another 10 points to add to the 34 he already has, as Paolo Martinelli holds up the manufacturer's trophy. And how many of those the Ferrari now got back on the headquarters at Maranello?
Wonderful trophy, isn't it? The steering wheel trophy is fantastic. And Juan Pablo Montoya receiving his for 2nd position. David Coulthard receiving his trophy for 3rd, and that A big smile from David after what has been a tough time here for them in Barcelona. So time for the champagne shower to begin. Ferrari continue their winning ways in this 2002 season, bringing the team's total number of victories up to 148. They're not much far off that 150 mark now for Ferrari. And Michael Schumacher just delighted to win again here. But what about Rubens Barrichello? How come all the bad luck seems to go his way?
Well, Mr. and Mrs. Dennis, well, Ron, go on, show some pleasure. Don't say that mean old sod. David drove a really good race for your team today. A lot of work to be done. You should show a little bit more joy, I think, than that.
I think everyone a little bit shell-shocked, John, once again about the level of Ferrari domination. The pace that he had there, set the lap record, he did everything. He got pole position, he won the race, set fastest lap. You know, I think everyone's just feeling a bit blown out of the weeds by the fact that Ferrari-Michael Schumacher combination is so fast.
And there's no answer in the short-term sight. McLaren for sure with the Mercedes, Williams with BMW are all working flat out. Don't forget about Renault, they are coming, and they're coming strong. Beyond that, well, they've always got the midfield. We've got to think, really, I think probably the most scary fact of this Grand Prix is now that the only teams not to have scored points in the World Championship are the two teams that are powered by Honda. I mean, I can never imagine ever making that statement after 5 races in a Grand Prix season.
Honda, who have been so successful over the years and powered so many world champions, and yet no points scored after 5 Grand Prix of 2002. That is the surprise, the shock perhaps of this season. Shocks are always created. Even Toyota have managed to get into the points in their first year of Formula One. Norbert Haub talking to the press after their 3rd place finish for Coulthard, but concerns about that rear wing failure for Kimi Raikkonen, who has, up to date now, only finished 1 race this year. That was the first race of the season in Australia. We'll take a quick look at the replay of them handing out the trophies. And a close word there between King Juan Carlos and Michael Schumacher. And they're making their way now through to the interview room, so in just a few moments' time, we'll get to hear from the top 3, Michael Schumacher, Juan Pablo Montoya, and David Coulthard.
And we see all the dignitaries getting clear of the winner's podium to ensure that no unnecessary shower of champagne gets over King Juan Carlos. But for some reason, the driver's just very happy to spread over their respective teams, and there's a happy sight. Juan Pablo, well, he knows that today wasn't the day he could take the battle to Michael Schumacher. That'll come in later races. David Coulthard, I'm sure, just delighted once again to get onto the podium, get 4 more points. And I suppose now the British media will decide that David Coulthard is the British driver that they have to champion.
Well, Coulthard just 1 point ahead of Button in that championship now, but everybody dropping further away from Michael Schumacher, and that's the concern as we move forward. But of course, not all the tracks will suit Ferrari quite as well as this one. We always knew this would be a good track for Ferrari. That's exactly how it's proved as Michael's powered his way to his 57th win. Let's go and hear from them right now.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Michael Schumacher, winner of the Spanish Grand Prix. Juan Pablo Montoya in 2nd, and David Coulthard 3rd for McLaren. Michael, that was a truly dominant drive. The first 2 stints of the race, you were pulling away at almost precisely 1 second a lap. Masterful.
Yeah, I mean, we were about 1 second ahead in qualifying yesterday. Sort of wasn't 100% clear what it's going to be in the race, whether we maybe fall back in the race a little bit over the distance, which we have seen in the past several times. But then I have to say that the tyres Bridgestone has developed have performed very well in qualifying, which was a little bit lacking last race, but kept their consistency for the race, and that's something obviously we're very happy about. And then our car especially is obviously simply the right circuit for it. I mean, our guys, our team, they have done a tremendous job over winter time, and again, as I said, this circuit shows really what our engineers have done.
Now, Rubens Barrichello, your teammate, didn't even make the start. He had, I believe, gear selection problems. You had a hydraulic problem at the end of the warm-up this morning. Did you have any concerns that you might be on the sidelines too as well?
Yeah, obviously, as we had the problem with Rubens, we sort of tried to take care about whatever he have done. I don't actually know 100%, but we sort of did a safe pit stop and did certain things a little bit more careful in order to make sure not to happen the same thing. But yeah, it's sort of really bad luck for Rubens. I mean, everything has gone wrong this year so far, has gone wrong for him. But you sort of can't really think it will always go that way. You have to, you know that one day it's going to hit yourself. We simply hope and try our best not to let it happen. And again, sorry for Rubens.
Michael, thank you. Juan Pablo in the points for the first time in a while, but a long way behind Michael.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty difficult race for us, and I think we made the best of what we had. In the pits we hit, I hit one of my crew chief, and hopefully he's all right. I heard actually he's all right, so a bit of a sorry there. But apart from that, the race went pretty well. We struggled all weekend with pace, and I think I gotta say I'm very pleased actually to get out of here with second place.
Now, you've touched on your problem at the second pit stop, but what exactly happened? It looked as though the lollipop man lifted his lollipop just that little bit too soon.
Yeah, I think he lifted because he thought I could go, and he tried to stop me actually with his body. It was, I managed to pull the clutch in as fast as I could, but I already had run over him, and that was it really.
Thanks very much, Juan Pablo. David, starting 7th on the grid, did you ever think you might be up here in the unilateral conference in 3rd place?
Well, I knew it would only come through other people having problems, and clearly that's what happened today. The only battle I really had was with Jensen, and then after the first pit stop I was able to overtake him down into the first corner. But other than that, we were just sort of having a lonely battle. So I benefited from other people's misfortune, but you accept that because that's motor racing.
Now, this morning we saw Mark Webber's rear wing come off on the start-finish straight. Early in the race, your teammate Kimi Räikkönen, he had his rear wing collapse. What did the team tell you while you were still lapping out there on the circuit?
Well, they didn't tell me anything. It was quite obvious what had happened, and there's no reason to pull the car out or for me to be worried about it because we haven't had a wing failure this year at all. Obviously they'll look at the remains of what's actually there and try and understand exactly why it failed, whether it was fatigue or whether it was manufacturing. But unfortunately, those are just the stresses and strains that are on Grand Prix cars. Occasionally they fail.
David, thank you. Michael, back to you. Last spring, it was the man next to you, Mr. Coulthard, who won in Austria. Heading there 2 weeks' time. What chance do you think you have?
Well, it's all a bit of a matter of what's the tyre situation there, which tyre is going to compete better, perform better. And that's something we have to see. We don't know. We believe we have a very competitive package overall, but it's sort of the question: how good can the others be? We have seen obviously here we were sort of dominant, but we have seen other races like Brazil where it was a close fight, and we have no idea what it's going to be in Austria like.
Michael, thank you very much. Now, Michael again and Ruben.
So the press conference over, and well, Montoya, as we heard there, glad to have at least got away from this track with 6 points. They always knew that it would be a tough one for them, but perhaps they didn't know quite how far ahead Michael Schumacher would be at the end of it.
No, I think they knew he was going to be a long way away, but I think also for Montoya, some of his relief is the result of a very difficult weekend. He struggled on Friday and certainly struggled on Saturday, and only by taking over the spare car and qualifying did he get himself onto the second row of the grid. He ran well in relation to his teammate. In that first stint, he started to close down to Ralph, and of course then that problem in Ralph, and he ran off track. That was the end of the story for Ralph, and Montoya pretty much a clear run in second place to the end.
How much do you think Ralph Schumacher's mistake was? Because Montoya was pushing pretty hard at that stage. He had come out behind him after the first pit stop, but he was pushing him, wasn't he?
Yes, but I think just Ralph misjudged the Campsa corner. We've seen many drivers over the weekend attack it aggressively, and you get the front wheel up it, but it's when you get the rear wheel, it also hooks the curb, and that then really puts the car into a very violent, very sudden move, which was the result. Ralph then went off track, had to recover the car, but in the process of doing so, he took off the barge board and damaged the aerodynamics in the car, and from that point there onwards, it was just basically a downward spiral for Ralph Schumacher.
It's not the way to win World Championships, not when you're up against brother Michael, who doesn't often make mistakes like that, and that's something. Ralf Schumacher made a little mistake here last year, had some locking brakes and went off. You cannot afford to make those sort of mistakes and win a world title.
No, you can't, and it's one of those things that happens. It just didn't quite work out for Ralf initially, and of course then he compounded it by a driving error. But Ralf clearly is driving very much with a championship in mind, and he knows his brother's got a huge advantage in terms of equipment and particularly with the points advantage that he has. You've just got to keep chipping away, and Ralf clearly realises, as Michael has taught him, you've got to finish every race in the points.
Well, it's been an afternoon of action and incident. Let's take a look back over the highlights of the Spanish Grand Prix. Weather conditions have remained a little bit gloomy throughout the day. The sun did show an appearance as we went through the race, but this fairly high wind at the start had one or two people concerned that may make a difference to the handling of the cars. Some celebrities here visiting the Spanish Grand Prix, but unfortunately not making an appearance in the race itself. The Minardi team withdrawn after wing failures, both front and rear, yesterday and today.
So King Juan Carlos of Spain greeting Michael Schumacher, and many a time he's come and had a word with Michael. And frequently he's been with him on the podium when he picked up the winner's award.
So to the start of the formation lap, and drama straight away for Rubens Barrichello as the Ferrari refused to move away from that second position on the grid.
And that turned out to be a gearbox selection problem, changing steering wheels, hoping that might redress the situation. But there, the grid without Barrichello, and clear air for Juan Pablo Montoya to slot down in behind Michael, but it's Ralf that gets the advantage. Button gets a great start, but watch for Raikkonen as he comes down the outside and once again reclaims his 5th place.
Yes, Raikkonen aggressive into that first corner, and Button had to drop in behind him as Barrichello gave up any hopes of getting into the race this year. So at the start, Michael Schumacher did his disappearing trick once again, pulling away from Ralf and Montoya.
And disappointment for all the Spanish fans who came to support Pedro de la Rosa as he went off, but look at this drama for McLaren Mercedes.
Raikkonen's rear wing coming off on the main straight, and he was pushed away. Takuma Sato made a driver error and threw away the second Jordan after we'd already seen Fisichella go into retirement.
And poor Eddie Jordan on the pit wall wondering, what am I ever going to do to get one of my 2 cars home in the points? In the meantime, Michael just drives away from the competition, but David Coulthard embroiled in a real battle caught between Jenson Button and Jarno Trulli.
Ralf Schumacher then made this crucial mistake, bounced over the grass and ripped off the barge boards just behind the front wing area.
Big pass from David Coulthard when he finally got position with Jenson Button. Jenson didn't make it particularly difficult, and there you can see joy in the McLaren pits.
Well, Button was clearly in difficulties and was then passed by teammate after the order came through from the team. Ralf Schumacher came in for a change of nose cone, but he was never to get back on the pace once again. The Sauber team fought with Renault, and Jenson Button was then battling with Nick Heidfeld as they came out of the pits.
Side by side on their speed limiter buttons, but Heidfeld was on the racing line, if you call that, in the pit lane. Got out ahead of Button. Montoya comes in, and this is the moment where we saw a big problem. The refueler still attached, and one of the team members injured his ankle, not seriously, thank goodness.
So then the race continued with this battle around 6th position. Massa finding a way past Jenson Button when Jenson Button seemed to be struggling more and more with his car, gradually getting worse and worse, and the Arrows team saw their man come up into 6th position.
In the meantime, Michael just cruising really the last 10-12 laps of this race, was able to watch this battle for the final points in the championship and sat back and had a very easy cruise to the finish, thanking the team over the radio, emotion in his voice and no doubt complete sincerity as well.
Well, he was delighted. It wasn't so good for his brother Ralf on that very last lap. The BMW engine expired. But for Michael Schumacher, his 3rd win in a Ferrari here in Barcelona, back-to-back victories with last year and a hat-trick of wins in 2002. It's just been a stunning start with this 2002 car. The only time he's been beaten this year was when they ran the 2001 car in Malaysia. Otherwise, he's just had every race really under control, had some battles with Montoya. It might have been a different story in Brazil if Montoya hadn't had the contact with him, but that's the way it goes. And today, it was all about Ferrari once again.
Well, it seems the big story of this weekend, Ben, has been hydraulics. Barrichello had it, Michael had it this morning. Jenson Button telling us that he also lost everything, power steering, gear change, probably the throttle as well. And a huge disappointment for the young Englishman who was doing so well in that early battle with Coulthard and his teammate. There we look in at Jordan, that's Takuma Sato's car. He went off on the exit of 12. Here to understeer, was just very wide, too early in the corner. And once he got onto the gravel, and that was the end of the story. But look at that Honda badge. We're so familiar with seeing that on the podium, on the winners' podium in years gone by. And now it is only BAR and Jordan, the two Honda-powered teams in the Formula One field this year that have yet to get off the 0 point.
Well, it's been a very disappointing start to them, and it's interesting that both Honda and Mercedes have not been able to come up with power plants that we might expect from those two companies this season. So maybe they've changed philosophy a little bit on their engine designs, because certainly this year, 2002, Honda and Mercedes not producing the same sort of horsepower compared to their opposition as we've seen in previous years.
Well, Honda, of course, involved in so many fronts in motorsport, not just in motor racing, but of course in motorcycling, and with the introduction of the new V5 900cc Grand Prix bike that Valentino Rossi's been racing, you know, there's a huge amount of stretch on the technology within the company, and they want to get onto the podium. They've got to do something dramatic and very rapid to find more horsepower for these two Honda-powered teams.
For the Arrows guys, though, this has been a real boost to their morale. They know that the financial situation is tight within the team. Tom has talked to them about that already. They've seen people being dropped at BAR and at Jordan, and they know that perhaps the same situation may arise for Tom Walkinshaw. A point score today will perhaps just ease that pressure a little bit, and that's what they'll be hoping for.
Well, there is pit stop classification. Good job by the McLaren team. That was the benefit of staying out longer, pretty much than anybody else. A shorter stop, less fuel going in. And that's the up of doing those very, very long, deep runs into, usually it comes in the first pit stop sector.
Well, slower stop there for Alan McNish in a 15th spot on the pit stops of routine stops, but still, Alan got himself a finish today, and that was what mattered to him, absolutely crucial. And just looking back here, David Coulthard had the chance and grabbed the top spot for a moment.
Well, he'll have his time at some point later in this year. David Coulthard, very resilient indeed, and McLaren Mercedes-Benz, a team that understands how to win Grand Prix. They've won so many of them in the past, what now, 21 years since the team was reconstructed as McLaren International, now of course Tag McLaren. And Ron Dennis and Norbert Haug, everybody involved in the team and the engine supply side, fully aware that it's a mountain they've got to climb. They've been there before, and they'll continue to do so in the future.
Hakkinen come back, says the sign. Well, I wonder if we'll see Mika soon. I'm sure he'll be at Monaco, if not before, at the A1 ring, which is the next race on the calendar. A1 ring is another track, John, that suits cars with powerful engines. There's a big hill to climb.
Yes, it is pretty much a power track. You've got those very low-speed corners, virtually 90-degree corners, some good corners in the infield, but principally it's about getting good turn-in, good traction. But if you've got the horsepower, you can carry the aerodynamic downforce and compensate that way. So expect to see not much change at the front. Ferrari for sure are going to be mighty. Williams and McLaren are going to be there, whether Williams in particular can revitalize the challenge that we saw them take to Ferrari, principally in those first 3 Grand Prix of the season. It dissipated in Imola and the San Marino Grand Prix. We want to see that come back. We don't want to see a whitewash from Michael Schumacher and Ferrari in the first half of this season.
No, at the moment it looks a little bit like that. The Minardi pit, of course, much more packed away than everybody else is, because they've been packing up throughout the Grand Prix, not having either car on the grid. Let's hope that they get those problems sorted out before we get to the A1 ring in Austria, and that both cars of Mark Webber and Alex Young will be able to make the start there. Mark Webber has certainly proved himself a talent in Formula One, very determined, very strong, very focused on what he's doing, and he will have regretted not to be able to be out there this time, but I'm sure he'll be back in Austria to fight once again for one of the smaller teams involved in Grand Prix racing.
Well, we're looking at now what is the less glamorous side of Formula One. We see the other side of the pit lane, the track, we see drivers, but here the team now begin the work of disassembling all the structures they put into the team garages, the packing up that will go on. These teams will hit the road. They should be back in the UK probably by Tuesday morning. The cars will then go into the race shop. They'll be turned around. In the meantime, they'll be testing with the test teams and it's most likely that most of the top teams will be testing somewhere in Europe. Another tyre test, another engine development test, another improvement in chassis. It's an ongoing process. Today's Grand Prix drivers work for their money, believe me.
They do, but it's also the opportunity for the third drivers, the test drivers, to get behind the wheel and do some of that work. Alexander Wirtz driving at McLaren. He's been doing a great deal of mileage so far this year. He was a Grand Prix driver, still I'm sure hopes to be one day, but at the moment doing a fine job as McLaren's test driver. Ferrari having Luca Padua and Luciano Berti, so some good experience there as well. Williams having a couple of test drivers, Marc Genet, Antonio Pizzonia. British driver Anthony Davidson doing some testing for BAR Honda recently as well.
Yes, it's good to see some of the British teams bringing along young British talent. But of course the pressure is really on the regular race drivers. They're the ones that have the final say in any developments that come along. And usually what happens is that the team's test, or number 3 drivers in the case of McLaren, will start a test and then they'll integrate their 2 regular drivers over a 3-day test. Or depending, maybe sometimes one of those 2 drivers, if he's had a heavy test schedule previously, may get that in-between week of Grand Prix off and has a chance just to catch his breath, go away and spend a few days relaxing. And there we see already the helicopter, whether that contains the King of Spain or whether it's just some of the other dignitaries around the circuit. But Saab over there have got cause to celebrate 4th and 5th this afternoon, doing a really fine job. And who would have ever thought that a Swiss team could do anything better than produce cuckoo clocks?
Well, they've done a lot better than that with this team. 4th in the Constructors' Championship last year, and now they're equal 4th once again. And Juan Pablo Montoya going to see his crew, and the guys that were involved in that accident in the pits when he pulled away, and obviously, you know, very worried about his man, but I think it seems he's okay.
Yes, Carl Gaydon, who was the chief mechanic, got clipped by Juan Pablo, and they're just talking to the team, and Juan Pablo's fairly relaxed about it. Unfortunately, there's no serious injury to Carl, but nevertheless, it's always it leaves you an unpleasant feeling, a taste in your mouth. It's such a difficult scenario, this whole pit stop routine, and I mean, it really is choreographed. But thanks to the team, well done, Juan Pablo, 6 points, and they're now being taken back to the team. Sabine will take him back, and he may well have to go up and meet some of the BMW guests, some of Williams' team sponsors, as the Arrows guys make their way back, and they'll of course to celebrate tonight as well. The first point of the season, probably the hardest earned point of the season so far by any team.
So a big turnaround from the team. We asked them from our communications base, and they said yes, a reward for all the hard work. The team has worked hard. Remember the disappointment of the first couple of races, Australia in particular, when neither car managed to get off the grid. Well, they've had a test session at Silverstone between Imola and here, and it just shows in the performance and the reliability that they've managed to enjoy.
And some of the camaraderie in the pit lane very much within the team, and the guys, the mechanics, the engineers within the team. Some of the BAR guys just came out and shook hands with Arrows to say, well done guys, you've got your first point. Maybe Austria will be our chance to get off 0.
Yes, they'll be hoping for better things in Austria for both BAR Honda and Jordan Honda. Jacques Villeneuve, Olivier Panis, Fisichella and Takuma Sato all to score a point yet this season. And for Jaguar, disappointing day I'm afraid again for them. De La Rosa made a mistake and went off, and Eddie Irvine ran consistently but not very quickly until something expired on that car as well.
Yes, and Eddie of course having to start at the back of the grid. That was due to a miss fuel. The team had fitted or put fuel into the car which didn't match the fingerprint of the fuel sample that is held by the FIA, and of course that is a serious crime. So Irvine was put to the back of the grid, and really all he was hoping to do is just bring the car home, get another finish. The reliability of Jaguar by and large this year has been pretty good, and Eddie disappointed, I mean thoroughly disappointed all year, and just wondering, well, after 3 years of my commitment to the team, am I just wasting my time?
So Barcelona has seen another dominant race for Ferrari. Michael Schumacher taking victory once again and further extending his championship lead, and we've enjoyed some spectacular pictures. It might have been a fairly easy win for Michael Schumacher up front, but thanks to our digital F1 coverage we were able to follow the battles throughout the field, and those battles for points proved to be very tightly fought indeed. Thoroughly enjoyed, some great views. I hope you enjoyed watching it with us. Now remember, in 2 weeks time we'll be going to the A1 ring in Austria. More of the same. where we'll be covering all the sessions, the free practice sessions on Friday, the free practice sessions on Saturday morning, the all-important qualifying, the warm-up on Sunday, the Porsche Super Cup as well, as if you haven't got enough, and then the Grand Prix itself on the Sunday afternoon. I hope you can join myself, John Watts, and the rest of the team here on Digital F1. Thanks for your company. Until then, goodbye for now.
Peter, it gets better and better. 2 cars in the points now. Wonderful result for you.
Yes, first I'm sorry for my English. No, it was a great day. Everything was super. The strategy, the pit stop, and 2 super drivers.
And a lot of credit to you as well, because both those drivers were your choice. Neither of them made mistakes, very consistent, and Felipe kept it on the road.
Yeah, I think it was not easy, because Hans-Harald Frentzen is a very experienced driver, and to fight against him is difficult.
A lot of teams seem to have hydraulic problems today, Ferrari included, of course. Your cars ran perfectly reliably. Again, a fantastic result for you.
Yes, the car is reliable. Also, the engine. Yes, and the driver drove the whole weekend without any mistakes.
Well, congratulations. Go away and celebrate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Peter Sauber, a happy man. What about Heinz-Harald Frentzen? He should be feeling just about the same, Heinz-Harald, after that point for Arrows. A great result for you and for the team.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much. It's a great result. The team did a fantastic job this weekend, and we just finished the weekend with the point. I think can't finish even better than that.
Hi Heinz-Harald, it's Perry McCarthy. What other circuits do you think are going to be good for your package later this year?
I'm pretty much confident that our car is generally has the potential to be quick everywhere. We're sometimes suffering a little bit with balance problems, and some circuits it's a bit worse, some circuits is a bit better, suits us better, but generally we're working on that, and once we get the balance right, I think the car would do another step forward.
Got anything coming that you think is going to be really good, research and development wise?
Yeah, we have something in the pipeline, and also Ford Cosworth is giving us for next race as well some horsepower more, so I think there's more to come.
Thanks, Heinz.
Heinz-Harald, Jeremy Hart here. The fact that you guys with your Cosworth engine are doing better than Jaguar with a more up-to-date Cosworth engine, what do you think the answer is? Do you think that your chassis seems to be better than theirs?
Well, you can't say so at the moment. You have to see the whole package. I mean, tire, chassis is an important tool which has to work together properly, and I think Arrows has some team with Bridgestone, a relationship with Bridgestone over the years, and we have also good support from Bridgestone. I think that is also a good point as well, that we have some very talented people here inside the team, which also did a good job on the chassis.
Thanks, Harold. Thanks for your time. Congratulations. We look forward to speaking to you again in Austria. OK.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now then, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. What about 7th? That was Jacques Villeneuve in a BAR. Here's Peter again, at this time with team boss David Richards.
David, very nearly scored some points there.
Very nearly isn't good enough, though, is it? That seems to be the story of our luck at the moment.
What exactly happened with Olivier?
We believe it's an exhaust failure, and we suspect that when it stopped in the pit stop here, it burnt through a sensor.
In itself, is that a problem? I mean, or you're worried about the heat build-up on the rear suspension?
They looked at that when he stopped, so they weren't concerned about that. It's purely from the exhaust side.
So loss of power then?
Yes, we lost the power a little bit early, but it wasn't too bad. But it was just, you know, one of those things, one of those missed opportunities.
Well, yes, Bridgestone runner, Jacques Villeneuve, Honda engine. It would have been nice to have been in the points in that package.
Yeah, it should have been, but there we go. We have to work on it for Austria now.
Very best of luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's continue our way down the finishing order. What about 8th and 9th? Toyota we're talking about, and here's team boss Ove Anderson and Peter again.
Ove, good day for you, both cars finishing. A slight problem with Mika at the start. Can you tell us about that?
Well, he just had a puncture. We don't really know the reason, whether he picked up some debris or if there was something else, but that was all.
And how was the rest of the race from your point of view?
No, I think it was, this time the cars worked very well, no problem at all.
Great to find reliability on a day when a lot of other teams had mechanical problems.
Yeah, there is a saying that to come first, you first have to finish, and I think this applies very, very much. I mean, you don't get the result without coming to the end of the race. I think we didn't show too well in the qualifying this time, but in the end we had a good results. We are very happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So only 9 finishes. Unfortunately, we backed Jenson Button to not only finish, but to do very well. Maybe that's the reason that he didn't. Here he is now.
Well, Jenson, the boys in the booth had you on the podium here. Didn't quite work out, but a great start to the race.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the first part of the race was good. When Räikkönen's wing came off, I don't know if something got stuck, but the car had so much understeer on the first 2 stints. I mean, we tried to do something at the pit stops with adjusting the wing, but didn't make any difference at all. I don't know what was wrong with the car, but it was handling very, very strangely. And that's why I lost a couple of positions in the second stop, after the first stop, sorry, and then the second stop, I had these problems with the hydraulics.
Hydraulics seem to have hit a lot of teams today, Ferrari included, of course. What's going on there?
I wouldn't have a clue. Never had a problem with it before, and yeah, I just lost everything. I mean, all the gears, throttle, steering and everything, so it's yeah, a bit of a shame, but you kind of luck all the time.
Great first, or great off the line, and then did you have to brake hard to avoid Kimi into the first corner there, or did you just let him go?
Well, there was a car in front, and it was very difficult for me to brake late, but yeah, he didn't give me much room, but there you go.
And did you see what happened with his rear wing?
No, I didn't. It just seemed to fall off. That was about it, really, and you know, I wasn't looking at it really because I was trying to get out of the way.
You can't drive for an hour and 40 minutes or whatever and look that cool. He's not faking that. He must be Mr. Cool.
Well, he practices, clearly in front of the mirror, but we won't go there because Perry will get upset. But, you know, he is very cool. Also, as I was saying earlier on, he has the trainer that everybody else wants in Formula One, which is this guy, Bernie Shrewsbury, and I'm sure we'll get him on the show because he's very interesting. I talked to him last week. He had Jenson in tow. They just climbed up a mountain in Norway, and they were sat there absolutely with a, no hint of out of breath. And he's got these guys as fit as anybody in the pit lane. And this is what you see. They come out and they're absolutely clean, not a hint of perspiration.
Those boys, the mechanics there at BAR and all the way up and down the pit lane with lots more to do. One race may be over, but another one just about to begin. That's the one in the hire cars aimed at Barcelona Airport, and it's not one that for the faint-hearted, having been a passenger in that one a few times. Now then, we've already heard from one disappointed Renault driver in Jenson Button. Let's hear from the other one, Jarno Trulli, who's talking to Amy.
Jarno Trulli, very disappointed. It looked like your luck was changing and you retired on the last lap. What was the problem with your car?
Well, from the beginning of the race, I had throttle pod problem. So I was losing some speed, but the car was still good and I was lapping well. But then mid-race to the end, just was struggling more and more, and basically the engine was not reaching the maximum power, and then I retired.
Was it the same problem as your teammate Jenson?
I don't know.
Thank you.
In other words, don't care, following I don't know. Anyway, sum up the Spanish Grand Prix in all of 10 seconds.
Ferrari, that's it. Somebody's got to find an answer to them, and I think the only people who can find an answer to them is Michelin.
Look forward to the Austrian Grand Prix in about 10 seconds.
Well, Michelin have really got to pull their finger out in the next week, otherwise it's going to be more big trouble for their runners. Bear in mind, though, both Honda teams are the only 2 teams not to have scored so far, and we're going to be past third distance next week.
It's amazing what people's perceptions of 10 seconds are. But anyway, in 10 days' time, we're at the A1 ring in Spielberg, Austria, where last year David Coulthard started in 7th place on the grid, but went on to claim a memorable victory. Sky Sports 1 has a preview of that at 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 9th of May. Then we're live and interactive with practice session 1 and 2 at 9:30 in the morning on Friday, the 10th. Practice 3 and 4 is at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday, followed by qualifying at 11:30. Sunday has warm-up at 8 o'clock in the morning with another chance to see the Porsche Super Cup cars in action, and the race programme starts at 12 noon. My thanks to Jeremy and Perry, to John Watson and to Ben Edwards for the Super Channel commentary, and to Peter Windsor for his exhaustive pit lane coverage. Peter's giving his aching feet a rest now, but he and the rest of us will be back for Austria when Michael Schumacher will be aiming and probably getting more of the same. We'll see you then. Bye for now. go straight to Patrick Head, waiting to talk to us now, the technical director at Williams. Good afternoon, Patrick.
Good afternoon, Jim.
How is your man Carl Gaydon and his left foot?
Well, Carl's a hard man, and normally at weekends he's riding up Snowdon on a mountain bike with a bag of bricks on his back, so he'll survive. I think he's got a slightly bruised foot, but pride is more damaged than body, I think.
How did you read that incident in your pits there?
Well, I think we'll have to talk about it in detail because I don't know exactly what happened, but somehow Juan Pablo, maybe Carl moved the board up a bit early while the fuel was still engaged. I don't really know, but whatever it was, Juan Pablo moved before the fuel was disengaged and before Carl was out the way, but it may well be that he'd been given a signal that suggested he should, so we'll obviously talk about it and make sure it doesn't happen again. OK, thanks for that, Patrick. Could you explain to us exactly what happened to Ralf Schumacher? Well, we weren't in a position to take the battle to Ferrari here, and so second and third was the best we could expect, really, and Ralf was sort of in good shape just in front of Juan Pablo. We did the first pit stops, and then a few laps after the first pit stop, I think the car got away from Ralf, and he went off, ripped off the turning vanes, or most of the turning vanes, in amongst the front suspension that conditions the airflow off the front wing, and he felt when he got back on the track that he'd got a broken front wing. In fact, it wasn't, it was these turning vanes, but we changed the front wing, changed the tyres, sent him out again. He was lapping quite slowly, and at the next stop we put a different type of front wing on to try and compensate, but his race was over, really. His
race was ruined, wasn't it? Just a couple of a technical one for you, really. How do you explain the wings flying off throughout the weekend here in Spain?
Well, I mean, obviously we saw a couple of front wings and a rear wing on the Minardi, and then the one on the back of the McLaren. I mean, I couldn't say anything about anyone in detail because I don't know any of the parts, but certainly here the aero loadings are pretty high, and there's a lot of rumble strips, and that gives you a lot of lateral vibration. So when they're stressed, you have to allow for the aerodynamic force, but also for the lateral vibration as well, and presumably somewhere in there hasn't been adequate allowance, but as I say, I'm commenting without actually seeing the components.
We appreciate your insight as always. Patrick, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah.
OK, let's go and have a word with Adrian Newey now, shall we? He's waiting to talk to us in the pit with our reporter, and it's Ted Kravitz.
Adrian, can you tell us what happened to Kimi's wing, first of all? Well, we're going to have to go through it in a little bit more detail, but it looks like a structural failure of the end rib in the lower wing, which caused the whole upper wing to collapse. So a structural failure. Were you worried that might happen to David's car? Worried, yes. We looked at the mileage sheets. We think it's a fatigue failure, and the wing on Kimi's car was considerably higher mileage than David's, so on that basis we decided that David should be safe. Was David consulted on that issue? No, it's a team decision. OK, but a podium place for David, things are looking up? Well, I don't know about that. I mean, realistically, if Rubens and Ralf hadn't had problems, then we might have been behind them, in which case it would have been fifth rather than third. So it's obviously not happy where we are at the moment. We'll keep working to try and improve. Thanks, Adrian.
Have a look back at some of the key moments of the Spanish Grand Prix. Rubens Barrichello, what an unlucky fella.
Well, it's desperately unlucky, but this essentially what happens when a team is totally built around Michael Schumacher, which it is. He gets all the attention, he gets the attention to detail. Here we are, poor Rubens Barrichello trying to press every button, and there's myriad buttons on that steering wheel, as you can see, and eventually having to go to the back of the garage. Think about it, in Australia he crashed, then he had an engine problem in Malaysia, then in Brazil it was hydraulics, and even his left rear wheel sticking in the pit stop at the last Grand Prix. It goes on and on and on. So I think he's holding himself in terms of his fortitude is amazing. 4 non-finishes out of 5 for the Brazilian. Now let's have another look at Kimi Räikkönen and the McLaren, and yet another wing flying off. Well, this is a key point. Here's the significant point. That crest there on the long, long straight, and here's Jenson Button just swerving to avoid that wing coming off Raikkonen, is the crest is exactly where it happened with Webber this morning, where the rear wing came off. And as Patrick had said, this is a massive aerodynamic circuit. And there's huge pressure on all the components. You don't know, the teams could have tested some different wing components, brought them here. They're all different structures and they failed under pressure.
And the battle we talked about before the start of the race, the battle of the Brits. Today it's one up to David Coulthard.
This is this fabulous long straight. In 91 we saw the battle of Senna and Mansell here, and now we're seeing the battle of Button and Coulthard. Now, he was very good, but he tries to squeeze him just at the last moment. There was a touch there, perfectly educated move there just on the inside. Now see, just a touch there as Jenson Button swerves round from David Coulthard. But it's building nice, isn't it, that? Can't wait for Silverstone with those two having at it.
Absolutely. Let's have a quick word, shall we, with Jenson Button. He's all set to talk to us, and at the other end of the microphone, it's Louise Goodman.
Well, Jenson, that started out great, but it sort of went downhill, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. To start with, I don't know if when Raikkonen had his wing come off, I don't know if something got stuck or something, but from then on, there was so much understeer in the car and the high speed. It was huge. I mean, I haven't had that much all weekend. And yeah, I was having to get down a gear in the high-speed corners, which is really, really unusual. Because that's not the way the car was set up, but there you go. And then I don't know exactly what the problem was, but I was stuck in gear. I think it was hydraulic problem because everything would shut down on left-hand corners. So there you go.
Here we go then, here's the Drivers' Championship, 5 rounds gone. Michael Schumacher running clear. Juan Pablo Montoya has moved up into 2nd place. Ralf Schumacher 3rd, and David Coulthard above Jenson Button. The unlucky Rubens Barrichello on 6 points. And the constructors, Ferrari 7 clear of Williams, McLaren the only other team in double figures. Renault and Sauber, what a good race they had here today, neck and neck, and Jaguar, who failed to score on 3 points.
Briatore, a very sad day for you because both cars were dropping out just by the last minute. What were the reasons in each car?
But it's, we don't know yet. Hydraulic problem, engine problem. But you know, we are not ready. We know that. Was a good weekend. This is the bad weekend. It's part of the race.
But how disappointing is it for you to see both cars dropping out so late?
Well, disappointed, you know. Happened to me, happened to other one. It's no problem.
Do you see yourself, unless it's happened today, do you see yourself as the 4th force in the Formula One?
Just before the problem, it is we are the 3rd force in Formula One. And, you know, it's part of the race. It's plenty of race to go. It's no problem at all. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Juan, let's start with the 2nd pit stop.
They left a little lollipop. I let the clutch go, and they jump in front of me. You know, it's a bit of a shame what happened. You know, hopefully he's all right. The car was okay, and we still finished 2nd.
At the first pit stop, you changed something at the wing. Why?
Both pits. We had I had quite a lot of understeer in high speed. We decided to put a bit more front wing, and it paid off a little bit. It was, you know, first pits we had a problem with the right front wheel. It took, you know, it was like car was ready and they were still trying to put it on. In the second pits of the other, you know, incident with Carl happened, but we still got to the end.
What did you think when Barrichello stopped?
I couldn't believe it. I said, "Phew." You know, I actually was thinking, if he gets into the T car, you know, because I didn't realize, you know, T car is always Michael's, apart from Brazil. So initially I thought, oh, you know, he's gonna come from the back of the grid and pass everybody probably, and then never really saw him. So, and then I figured car wasn't Michael's.
Is Michael with Ferrari out of reach at the moment?
In here, yeah. This last 2 races, yeah, it's nothing to do. Probably we need to do quite a lot of work to catch them.
Thanks.
Peter, are you okay?
David, how was it back on podium?
I missed that question completely. What did you say? I was listening to his question.
How was it back on podium again?
It was great to be on the podium because we didn't expect to be there, and obviously benefited from other people's problems. But nonetheless, we'll take the points, and I'm happy for the team.
And the 3rd place, is it the maximum at the moment you can get?
In real fair racing, we don't get 3rd because there's the 2 Ferraris quicker than us and the 2 Williams. But in this circumstance today, which obviously reliability comes into play, we I think deserve the 3rd place.
What do you think? Where do you have improved most at the car?
I don't know. We have made big steps forward since the beginning of the year, to be honest. We're still trying to understand why we're struggling to make as much use of the Michelin tyres in this part of the season, in comparison to where we were in pre-season, where we actually were more happy with the balance.
Talking about the championship, is it already written off, or as long as it mathematically is possible, you are thinking about it?
It's possible mathematically, but realistically you've got to say it would take a remarkable set of circumstances for us to be battling for the championship. Ferrari are looking pretty dominant at the moment. Williams are still a bit quicker than us, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us.
Thanks. Michael's performance today in the T-car?
Oh, it was faultless. Very good start. And really then it was controlling the pace for the rest of the race, trying to minimize the stress on the car. So his race was very straightforward. Obviously very disappointed what happened with Rubens, because we've lost another potential 6 points. So you know, on one side we're delighted with Michael's performance, on the other side Rubens didn't finish again, and that's very sad.
What was the problem? It seems that a dark cloud is following in permanently.
Yeah, I think we've got to have a look at everything, but I think we broke the gearbox on the line. He went to pull away, and I think we had some sort of failure of the transmission, but we'll need to see this evening.
If we have one eye on the championship, no opposition left?
Oh no, there's plenty of opposition, and yeah, we won't relax until the season is finished. So,
thanks, Ross.
Well, Kimi, first of all, bad luck for you today. Have you got an explanation why your rear wing disappeared?
No.
Not at all?
No, it just fell off. I just felt that I got 200 horsepower on the straight line, and I don't know really what happened, but you need to ask from the team.
How does it feel as a driver when all of a sudden the rear wing is not there anymore?
Oh, it feels quite bad because we don't have any grip in the rear anymore, and it's just not anything else choice than come in.
Do you consider it as a general construction problem of the MP470?
I don't know.
How long will the analysis take for this? What do you think?
Ask from the team.
Okay, thank you very much.
Eddie, what happened with Sato?
Well, he developed as he was trying to catch Panis and obviously Frentzen as well. Slightly more and more understeer, and I think it caught him out. On the very fast corner before the start and finish, he lost it and obviously spun. And probably, as you can see in the screen there, he had quite a big off. So shame, because I thought he was making very good progress, but the team right now needs his finishes, and it's a shame that this happened.
Hi Eddie, it's Prix McCarthy. Eddie, Takuma's making a lot of mistakes, mate, isn't he? I mean, you know, are you going to take him to task over this? He's a great talent, no question, but, you know, you guys have got to finish, haven't you?
We're probably not giving him the very best car right at the moment, Perry, and that's as much our problem as his. And it's a sort of a daunting period. We all know what Formula One is like. It takes no prisoners. So we can easily be hard on the guy, but what we need to do is to put our arm around him and love him a bit, give him a little bit more encouragement and a little bit psychological benefit out of this. And because whatever happens, whether he stays or doesn't stay long term, we need to make sure that he finishes the races and in the very best position, as you rightly say. So it's a difficult one. He is making some mistakes, but I think that the car is also a difficult car.
EJ, it's Jeremy Hart here. You know, you've brought so much joy and enthusiasm to Formula One over the last few years. It's a shame to see you down at the moment. But reality is reality, and what time period would you put on you getting back where you should be?
Yeah, I'm glad you said down, not out. I think you did say out, I hope. But because we're a resilient lot and we will be back. We've been down in this kind of position before. Memories of '98 in Monaco springs to mind, and
there are really quite a lot of things rushing through. Henri Duran, who's our new head of aero and all about the research development side of things, and he has targeted Canada. Now, I have to make sure tomorrow morning early to make sure that whatever happens, and I know we're working 24 hours a day at the moment to manufacture these parts, but we really have to make sure whoever makes them that they're out before then, because time doesn't wait for anybody, and this is a cruel sport insofar as that when you're down it's hard to get back up, and we are determined to get back up. And so if I could try and say, look, I think you will see an improvement, big improvement by Monaco, I've got to say that because I've got to pretend that I believe in it, and I've also got to make my people believe in it. So it's going to need a bit of encouragement all the way around.
Thanks, EJ.
Thanks for your time. Down but not out. By asking him what happened to Ralf Schumacher at the end there.
Well, he was obviously not able to take any sort of race to Michael, but he was fairly comfortable in second, and the pit stops happened, and sometime after his first pit stop he must have gone off the track somewhere, came in saying that there was something wrong with the front wing, but in fact he'd wiped the turning vanes off that have quite a big effect on the aerodynamics, and the tyres were replaced, the front wing was replaced, but in fact that wasn't the problem. So he then ran quite slowly till his next stop, and at the next stop we put on a different front wing with different settings to try and compensate.
Do you know where he went off and why he went off and what happened there?
No, I don't know. He obviously must have got on some dirt or something and lost the track, so...
And then right at the end, it looked as if he had a problem with maybe the engine.
Yes, it looks as if something in the right-hand bank of the engine's given problems. Yeah.
An engine failure, it's not a bad race to have one, I guess.
I suppose so, yeah.
But Juan Pablo, great drive.
Yeah, no, very good. Excellent, yeah.
And did you see any of that incident with Carl Gaydon in the pit stop?
No, I didn't see it closely. I'm told that for some reason, which we'll talk to Carl about, he lifted the wand too early, and when the fuel coupling was still on. I don't really know why, but these activities are precision activities, and one mistake leads to a problem like that.
Well, great to see him back in the garage now, limping a bit sheepishly, yeah, but back in action.
Yeah, no, he's okay. I mean, these things could be nastier, but luckily he's okay, and luckily there was no problem with the refueling.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Good, thanks.
Luca Colajanni, Ferrari press officer. What happened to Rubens Barrichello? First he was pulled off the grid and then put in the garage.
Yeah, apparently there was a gear selection problem in his car. We try and solve it in the pit lane, but unfortunately it was not possible. That's a pity.
Okay, thank you very much.
Eddie, John, we've heard from Giancarlo Fisichella, but what was Takuma Sato's problem? Was there a technical problem or was it driver error?
Well, he seemed to think he was beginning to make progress against Panis and Frentzen, and got the car understeering more and more, and he went into a very fast corner just here before the start and finish, and he understeered straight off the track, and so don't want to talk about people's errors at the moment. I just want to say that you know, it's a shame we didn't keep going, because what we need to do is get finishes, and then we can sort out the points later.
Well, it's been a very difficult weekend for you so far. When can we expect to see improvements? Giancarlo seemed to think Canada was a pretty good benchmark.
Well, we've got to bring it more forward. You know, there's other things we know coming through that has been made 24 hours a day at the moment, and we have to make sure somewhere along the line we have to bring them forward earlier than that. And this is a hard time at the moment, but sometimes it needs things like this to focus the mind clearly on what needs to be done.
Bad luck, Eddie. Thanks for talking to us. Incredibly happy, and no wonder. Heinz-Harald Frentzen picking up the first point for Arrows. How do you feel?
Yeah, obviously we're very happy, and I think that, you know, the thing that makes you really happy is you were in the race. You know, he was there, he was competitive, we were racing with all the top teams, and, you know, we had a huge amount of work in the last few weeks, and I'm really pleased for all the guys because they're putting a tremendous effort.
Looks like it's moving forward. Thanks, Tom. Oh, Frenson, wow, what a race. You scored Arrow's first point. How do you feel?
Great. I think the team did a great job this weekend, and we had a reliable car in a race. It could push all the time. Great result for us.
Fantastic. Well done. Thank you.
I'm going to get very lively with...
Nick Heidfeld, one question, 4th place. How do you feel?
I'm really happy. We showed good performance all over the year, but didn't manage to get the result. Now we have both cars in the points. I finished 4th, so I'm really happy the car won without technical problems today. I had a nice fight with the Renaults and it was really good.
Nice to see you smiling. Thank you.
Great race, Nick.
David Richards, Jacques Villeneuve in 7th place again, just outside the points. BAR getting better all the time.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, clearly it's an indication of the consistency, but 7th isn't good enough, is it?
Well, I don't know, but Olivier Panis, unfortunately, pulling over towards the end there. What was his problem?
It appears to be an exhaust breakage on the car, and then it looks like it's burnt through wiring or some sort of sensor. So, no, I do feel sorry for Olivier. He's just had so much bad luck so far this season. It has to change sometime.
Well, it looks like it's moving forward. Thanks, David.
Thank you very much, Dave. Cheers.
Look again. Well, it's we could say it's bad luck, but it's just that you know, some guys come to me and said, "You the guy that have more bad luck than everyone." I don't feel like this. It's just something that it happens, and it happens a little bit too often with me, especially this year. We need to address the problem and see what we do for the future. I was standing in front of your car in the pit lane, and everybody was telling you that you had to push a button on your steering wheel, and you were shaking no. Because at this point, you have probably 20 persons trying to talk, and I had done it. Everything they said it, and I try even more for myself. Nothing would work, so it didn't matter. If first gear engaged after one lap, doesn't matter. I was going to race, maybe try to get some points, but it wasn't today.
Yes, it has been a great weekend so far for us. We have shown competitiveness and we have achieved a point. I think good result for us, for the team.
I'm really satisfied with 4th positions. Couple of points for the team. I didn't have any technical problems. It was a quite interesting race fighting with the Renaults, and I'm really pleased.
And fighting with the Renaults, even in the pit lane.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where you have to overtake nowadays. And Kuhl called me in, although we hadn't planned it for that lap. I saw that he was coming in as well, tried to push as hard as I could on the entry, and made some meters. And Pitcock did a perfect job, and we just managed to pass.
What happened exactly? You lost some parts, and it came into your cockpit?
Yeah, it was just, I mean, because I went off, that was my mistake. I lost it on the entry of turn 7, so I had to run wide in the exit. Lost a few parts of the car, and lost us a considerable amount of downforce. That's why I was so slow. But I mean, at the end of the day, we had an engine problem, so I didn't finish anyway.
With all the wing stories this weekend, and your teammate losing his wing, was there any information from your team to you on maybe a warning?
No, not at all, because what can you do? You know, you can't drive slowly, you'll just lose time. So we haven't had any wing failures on this car this year, so there's absolutely no reason to expect it to be a fundamental problem with the design. It's more than likely a fatigue failure or a construction issue just on that wing, so I wasn't at all nervous. And also, if it falls off, then you usually feel it pretty quickly.
McLaren is usually doing very well on this circuit. Is that part of the success today?
Well, no. Well, we weren't competitive all weekend, so we benefited from other people having problems, and I just tried to extract the maximum from the car.
In the beginning, it looked still having understeer.
Yeah, especially in high speed, and we worked a lot, especially in the second sector of the car, to have a good car to take care of the tires, and it really paid off. You know, Ralph was a bit quicker to tire with the stint, but halfway at the end of the stint, my tires were a lot more conserved. You know, they conserve a lot better.
And then second pit stop, problem. Lollipop man said go, and then somebody throw himself in front of your car.
Actually, the same guy threw himself in front of the car. It was ooh. But it was good because I was lucky that, I just starting to let the clutch go and I managed to stop it.
But the guy's fine now. Does it mean you find it now? We're going to expect more from you?
Well, this is about what we can give at the moment. I think probably when we go to Austria, hopefully it's a different...